Hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Huskies Hockey Podcast. Weldie sitting with Andrew for the last official off-season podcast. As in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start getting on a regularly scheduled basis here of getting some predictions, previews. Obviously, Andrew's previews are always 100% spot on, and mine are a little bit spotty. So to speak, but yeah, I'm itching as I was preparing for this podcast. Summer's winding down, fall's kicking up, and I'm ready for some hockey.
Same here. Yeah, we got 2 weeks and change roughly till we get Husky action with the women starting September 21st, I believe. 21st, yeah, it's Saturday, Sunday series against Lindenwood. So we're recording this on the 5th of September, so that means we're 16 days away from opening day.
So
getting excited.
And I can't remember if Lindenwood has a stream.
Oh, we'll get into that.
We'll
get into that.
But either way, Huskies KVSC is going to be actually on the call. They're going to be traveling down. So Alex and Carl are actually going to be on the call for those games, watching Grace Delmonico's first 3 goals as a Husky. That's my call right there. So we got a special guest here that has joined us for this episode, Jason Bryant. In the Concrete Cathedral, the voice of the Huskies, the PA system, and I just want to say thank you for coming on, and we're really excited to have this episode with you.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I've been listening to the show since I came on board, and including the marathon episodes and the not so marathon episode, because I need to learn more about Husky hockey. I'm sitting there, I'll be sitting there talking to fans, be like, oh, yeah, they're so-and-so, and I have no clue who the heck they're talking about. It's like, oh, yeah, he played here in 2014. I was like, I no idea. So my Husky hockey history is limited to the last 2 seasons, and then my hockey history, which we'll get into later, goes back like 27. Let's see how many years, 25, 26 years, but it was a long gap in between. But when it comes to I listen to you guys, like when you guys were students, like, okay, how old was I? Where was I when that situation? Where was this Jeff Finger reference? So like I need to go back and learn my Husky hockey history. So this is one of those many steps that it takes for me to do it.
Where were you for the Brocklehurst ping is actually
well, if you tell me what year it was, I can probably tell you where I was.
07?
I think it's 07, yeah.
I was living in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's where I was at.
Amish country.
Yes, very much so.
So far away from the ping, but we.
I was announcing women's flat track roller derby for the Dutchland Rollers in that era with a derby named Horace in buggy. So I definitely embraced the Amishness.
You're deep into Amish country, right?
Oh yeah, my first day of work, I got stuck behind a horse and buggy on the way to the office, which was an 8-mile drive up, PA 283. So it was either the smell of the Kellogg's factory or the smell of, well, those of you that live in the farms know what I'm talking about. So that was Central PA.
Make a trip up to Long Prairie, Minnesota, if you're pining for buggies, because I believe that's the biggest Amish settlement in Minnesota. And,
the horse and buggy will clop on by my parents' place. They live just north of Sauk Center on the Long Lake, so you'll hear it clopping down. They're going to sell their wares in town, and then later that night, clop on back.
We're either Amish or they're big fans of the film Witness, starring Harrison Ford.
And Kelly McGillis. Watched it in my film class in college.
Well, thank you for bringing up that, getting the reference, because I think Weldie is not aware of Witness.
Well, that's the one. What was they raised the barn, but he stopped midway through?
No, that's Kingpin.
Oh, dang it. Okay, that's the other Amish movie.
Both based on true stories, by the way.
McCracken.
Yeah, it's basically Harrison Ford goes undercover cop to solve murder in Amish country, but they do raise a barn in that one as well. So good stuff. We're 5 minutes in, and we're already on Amish films.
I will drive this show right off the rails in a heartbeat if you let me.
Oh, the show's always off the rails, so don't worry about that. What was the one with Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley? Weren't they Amish in something?
I am not remembering that. There was a Wes Craven film, Deadly Blessing. That was an Amish.
For richer, for poorer.
Yeah, okay. That's it. That's right.
Were they Amish? God, so
I don't know if they were Amish.
Very Mennonite something. I don't know.
There can't be too many on this bingo board.
This was not a movie. I had to Google that because I was like, Tim Allen Amish. Right. Boom, there it goes.
Okay. Well, so I wasn't that far off. So what? All of a sudden, we dropped 3 Amish movies right there.
No, then there's one. We actually got a DVD one year for. I actually felt bad. I thought it was a white elephant gift, but it was actually a legitimate gift. It was like some popcorn in this movie called Amish Grace. I felt so bad. It's like, wow, yeah. Thought it was a joke because I lived in Amish country. No, this was a legitimate DVD.
How was the movie?
Sorry, Jenny.
Yeah. How was it?
I
don't know. It's a DVD. I never watched it.
All right.
My wife might have watched it on Hallmark.
There's your
off week. Jason's holding a viewing party. First bye week of the season. We're all going to get together and watch Amish Grace.
Not going to happen. I didn't watch it with my wife. You think I'm going to watch it with you guys? That's not going to happen.
Fair enough. So, let's we got all episode here with Jason. So we'll talk some Husky hockey first. Obviously, myself, Andrew, we're just fans. We're just schmucks that are just talking about Husky hockey. Jason, do you want to throw out a disclaimer real quick?
I'm also a schmuck. No. I'm not gonna probably answer too much hard hitting things in terms of what I know or don't know on it. But sorry to disappoint. I am not in those offices. It's like I go to the games early. I do not. I don't listen to coaches' speeches and stuff like that. So I don't have really any inside player or office intel, that type of things. And if I did, I like my gig and I'm not going to jeopardize it because, there's certain things, and I'm also not going to disparage any other teams in the NCHC. However, former ADs in the NCHC are available. So Trev Alberts, he might be in my crosshairs, but I'm not, I cannot disparage anything about some school in Grand Forks. So I cannot do that. I cannot say
will do that for you.
Negative about the school in a good brewing town on a big lake that's kind of large in northern Minnesota. I cannot disparage any type of Catholic university that wants to annoy its neighborhood citizens by building an arena. Can't do any of that.
Mm-mm.
It's off limits.
That's off limits. So
yeah, can't do any of that. But
I can.
Said, I mean,
and I do.
Yeah,
so.
You guys. I mean, I'm not. I might be able to pack the snowball for you. I can't throw it. Though.
Can't throw it. So, first question then, Jason, that I have for you is why isn't Grace Delmonico first? What's going on in the room? Why can't? Oh wait, no, we just talked about that.
No. For that type of information, I need to go to Dump and Change. That's what I need to. That's what I need to dive into. Maybe next time I'm in the ticket office, I can pull Avery's. Get her knowledge on the situation and then report back to you. Oh wait, no, I can't do any of that.
No, can't do any of that. And she won't answer all of my comments on TikTok anymore. So that's
I mean, just. I don't respond. I don't send any college players on social media any questions unless I've known them since I covered them in high school. So and that's on my sport too. So yeah,
thing.
I'm 45 years old. I don't need to be like creeping into DMs for like legitimate questions. So it's a different time. Time.
The last thing also I want is Adolski coming at me too, because again he intimidates and scares me. So his big red chewing just scary. So, Huskies. Let's start with the men here then. Quickly, a couple things that crossed since we last spoke. Captains have been named. So we've got Litke carrying the C for the Huskies, and the alternate captains with Ports, Rosborough, and Solquist are the four captains. And just seeing those, obviously captains usually, and I believe that's the case. Most teams across the country are, voted on by the players of who they respect. We're not in the locker rooms. Those disclaimers, obviously, but kind of looking over, just kind of interesting with, Ports being a first just came here as a transfer. Rosborough, who's only played 30 some games there. So, the players really respect him for that reason. But got to be some of the lowest point getting group that we've had in a long time, being here as a captain. But hopefully I would imagine they're well respected in the locker room. So
yeah, I guess I didn't think about it that way. Yeah, with Litke too, it's not like he's a prolific scorer himself. You go back to last summer when we would have gone over the captains for last season, because I remember at that time thinking Litke's probably got inside track to get captain next year.
Yep.
And that's because he was one of the assistants, wore the A last year, and only one of the captains from last year that's returning this year. So kind of I don't know about no brainer, but an expected pick, not a surprise that he's made the captain, gets the C slapped on him this year. Yeah, some interesting selections there with Ports and Rosborough in particular. Solquist, I could have probably nailed that one. Just got the feeling with him, but and it's not like, I know that there's been like Ben Storm in the past, wore an A, didn't really get a ton of playing time that year. Some folks might think that captain selections kind of automatically mean you're kind of guaranteed ice time. At least that's historically not been the case in recent St. Cloud history. So yeah, Ports, who was mainly a scratch last year, I mean, he came on strong at the very end. He kind of gets forward momentum going into next season, see if we can spread the momentum out into this upcoming season. Perhaps that is a good sign. I don't know. At least the locker room likes him. He's a local kid. Perhaps that factors into it a little bit. There is locker room politics here that we're not privy to. This isn't something that I think you hang the season on as who your captains are. It's a big deal, but I like the fact that you just got the 3 assistants to the 1 captain. One thing last year, the women's side, I think they had 6 assistant captains. I thought that was overkill. You kind of cheapen the honor of wearing a letter by selecting so many of them. So I think this is a good number of captains, and congrats to Litke for, I think, a well-earned promotion from the A to the C. And congrats to the other 3 for donning a letter in this coming season.
Yeah, I think North Dakota has like 7 letters. It's like,
really?
just give it out to everyone at that point.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So, and then a new recruit as well, that from Brainerd, Cade Stengrim, and big 6'4" forward. Put up 46 points in 27 games there for Brainerd. And I think also has a little bit of development team as well, aspirations. So, a couple years, obviously. I think he's had a couple of preseason games. He's going to play for Youngstown. I would imagine he's going to be going back to high school, but we'll keep an eye on him, future recruit trackers. So, and then we got some information here that was released about the 2027 season as we extend to 10 teams officially. that a little bit of a shakeup of the playoff format, and we got some designated rivals. So what do you want to tackle first there, Andrew?
Well, let's start with the last thing. The new, most of it's the same. You still have CC in Denver. You still have Western and Miami hooking up as designated rivals. So you're going to see a guaranteed 2 series home and away against. So 4 games that you're guaranteed against. And currently, St. Cloud's conference rival is Duluth, but that will change now with the additions of Arizona State as well as St. Thomas. So Arizona State coming in this upcoming season, St. Thomas coming in the 26-27 season. So this is going to take effect in 26-27. St. Cloud matching up with St. Thomas as their new conference rival, so they'll see them 4 times a year. UMD, Duluth, is going to be matched up with North Dakota. And then North Dakota's old conference rival, Omaha, will be matched up with Arizona State. Again, I think you go back to the last podcast, maybe 2 podcasts ago, one of the summer podcasts, we had speculated whether or not they would make a change like this. And not surprised that they went as geographical as you could, because the only other option, I guess, it would be keeping the current conference rival designations as they are, and then just make the 2 newcomers, Arizona State and St. Thomas, match up. But kind of weird geography there. You're always going to have one outlier with Arizona State so far away from everybody else, but
it might be easier to fly from, St. Thomas is closer to the airport. So, MSP to the Sky Harbor might be an easier trip to some places.
Could be.
Oxford, Ohio.
But they went this way.
I would imagine St. Thomas just flies private anywhere anyway. They got the money. They can just hop on. They probably have they're going to be building an airport there on their campus too. Why not?
Well, if it alleviates the TSA lines at MSP, I'm all for it. I fly a lot, so.
Well, St. Cloud will not need to get their frequent flyer miles in for their travel to St. Thomas, because they're going to be going there. I wonder, because they've only done in St. Thomas's 3-year tenure in Division I now. They've only played the home and homes. So I'm wondering if they're going to continue to do that as conference play starts in 26-27 for St. Thomas in the NCHC.
That's what they do for the goal pan, right?
Yep. CC and Denver, they switch. They alternate home and homes throughout the year. And I mean, St. Cloud and Bemidji is doing that. Like, I can't remember the last time that St. Cloud played Bemidji in a 2-game series at the same location, which is odd. Like, they play those with Mankato, which is closer to St. Cloud than Bemidji is, but they've been on this home and home scheduling agreement with the Beavers for a while now. But this one, short travel, an hour each way or so, depending on the traffic. And I mean, I'm not sad to see Duluth go as a conference rival. My hatred of Duluth, of the Bulldogs. And you'd like to think you're trading down a little bit in competition. But then again, we've mentioned St. Thomas probably going to be a decent team here going forward based on their resources that they have and the resources that they have. And who knows? I mean, Duluth was 7th this year in the conference, so it's not like the 27 Yankees. But maybe a bit of a step down there, and being able to get St. Thomas coming in there in 26-27, maybe not the cream of the crop of the conference. And so, be that as it may, I mean, I'm sure St. Cloud's happy. It's another bus ride that they guarantee every year. Every time that you can avoid getting on a plane with the university that's so strapped for cash, I'm sure this was something that they definitely welcomed. And yeah, any other thoughts on, not just the St. Cloud, St. Thomas, but the other, ripple effects through the other pairings?
Yeah, I mean, I think all that makes sense. And really the only, I think, question would be, how are you going to pair up the North Dakota, Minnesota, Duluth, St. Cloud, and I think this one does make the most sense. And I think we got to play for something. We got to put something stupid on a stick, and some kind of battle for the Saints or the Saint Bowl, or I don't know, the Saint Cup. I don't know. We got to have some kind of dumb gold pan type thing to play for. I love stupid stuff to play for. And I think having some type of rivalry with the, let's just try to create something to give a little bit of a buzz for these games, especially if they're going to be home and home. I like home and home as a kind of a draw overall when it comes to series. Like you said, I'm surprised that we don't do that more with Mankato when we did schedule them. And maybe that's kind of, like you said, a cost-cutting thing that we'll do in the future. But even when we had Minnesota too, I mean, when we played the Gophers, those, even in the WCHA, there were a few of those times that we did home and homes as well. So
most of the time, in Mankato, you'd usually play home and homes back in the WCHA days. For some reason, it's been changed since now they're non-conference. But you'd usually get home and homes with, I'm pretty sure they did home and homes with Duluth way back in the day. In conference play, and so it seemed to be more common. I don't know why they're not
back in the deck.
Done. Yeah, it would have been. I would have sworn like 02, 03, 04, somewhere in there. I've come across home and homes with Duluth. I don't think they were terribly common, but certainly with Mankato, like in the WCHA days, that was pretty standard. So yeah, I like the home and homes. I'm surprised. I think we've been over this too, like that there isn't more college hockey rivalry trophies. I mean, aside from the Gold Pan and I know the Governor's Cup, the Alaska teams. But other than that, you'd think that like something like BC and BU would have something on the line, where it's a college football. There's, think of all the Gopher, like those.
Yeah. I mean, the Gophers have something to try to hang their hat on. So they can have a hollow victory for the Floyd of Rosedale because the ref botched that call on that fair catch.
A bad call.
God, that was
I am freely open to disparage Gopher football, so that is open.
It's a safe space.
It's a bummer because I love the hubris of Gopher football fans. So I love the buildup and the inevitable collapse. And I don't have that this year. When you lay an egg, Big Ten goes 17-1 in the first week of college football, and the Gophers lose. It's like I want the buildup. I want people talking Rose Bowl in week 5 because those fans are ridiculous.
My wife gets annoyed at that because she got her master's from the U, so it's she doesn't really like it when I rip on Minnesota teams. It's like I don't really make a whole lot of friends at the family discussions when I kind of like chuckle. A chuckle at the Vikings misfortunes or the Gophers football misfortune. Oh darn, that's a shame.
Does she throw back the wrestling then? Because obviously the Gopher wrestling they've
won national titles, yeah. So and I've got a good relationship with their staff. So that's
okay.
That's not, it's just like I don't know. I it's one of those things where I got to pick my battles. So it's.
Pick the battles you can win.
Yeah, kind of like Gopher football scheduling. Oh,
yeah.
Wait, that's why they don't play North Dakota State anymore. Mm-hmm. That was the funny that when I first moved here, that was the joke. Is what I always said. What was the best college football team in Minnesota? North Dakota State. So that was, and it's probably I'd like to see the Bison play the Gophers this year and see. But anyway. But I digress.
I will have to say though, this is Jackrabbit country for me. So I'm South Dakota State fan when it comes to college football. They lost a tough one. I will have to say to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, my buddy was calling that game too.
Oh,
sure. Well, hey, Sean Kenny. Me and him travel to World Championships. So a little known story. He is their voice of international wrestling on the broadcast. I've got the arena. He's got the broadcast. So
sure enough.
Whenever I see Sean working a game, I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
My brother and I still talk about, we agree it's the worst sporting event that we've ever attended in person. It was the first year of the what's the Gopher football stadium called now?
Now I think it's Huntington Bank. Okay. I think it was
TCF.
used to be TCF then.
So it was the first year of that. So 09, I think. They played a game against 09.
9.
Good. Look at our guest. He's on top of it more than I am.
I told you I listened to this show.
But
it's not as It's not as painful as watching Gopher football.
Well, here's some
set
pain.
A real high bar,
here's some pain for you. It was Gophers v South Dakota State. Go Jackrabbits. It was
Go Jacks.
It was a rainy, terrible weather day. 10-9 final. There was 0 offensive touchdowns. The only touchdown was a interception return. Bunch of field goals. South Dakota State missed the field goal at the very end, which would have won the game. Gophers grinded out a 10-9, just a sloppy affair. And it was a pitiful display of athletics. That takes the cake for the worst sporting event that I've ever witnessed in person. And if you're saying, well, you think that this season is going to be disappointing because you don't have the elevated expectations, they do play Rhode Island this weekend.
Oh,
and that we
noted CAA football juggernaut.
I think they got their hands full. Is all that is.
Yeah, they're gonna win by 4, or they're gonna win by 3, and claim to be they righted the ship, they righted the boat.
What's the Rhode Island Minnesota trophy they're playing for?
They're gonna make one. They're gonna come up with one
after this one.
The rivalry is starting officially. If it is college wrestling, is there any trophy games, like any
meats,
merchandise at stake?
J-Rob, when he was the Minnesota coach, he was doing a border brawl with Iowa, and that was when they set the attendance record for most fans at the time. Most fans at a dual meet, and it was at the Target Center. And I want to say this was like 02, 03. And, he had Jesse Ventura with this belt that they had made. And
of course it would be Jesse Ventura.
Of course. I mean, absolutely. I've got my Jesse the Body Ventura, like old pro wrestling figure up here off to my right. But they tried to do that. There's the border bell that NDSU and SDSU wrestle for, the same way that the football teams do. But the biggest one is Augsburg and Wartburg, Division III. They have a belt that they wrestle for, but the Battle of the Berg. It is one of the. I actually had to miss announcing the Battle of the Bergs last year because I think we had Omaha in town. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, hockey does they pulled the trump card on that one, but it was like, yeah. So Augsburg and Wartburg. I mean, there was just Augsburg's coach sent me a video today. The LG, like the telecommunications TV company, they did a whole documentary on that series from last year and that dual meet, and then it came down to at the Nationals they were they're the only teams that have ever won the Division III championships for the last 29 years. It's either been Augsburg or Wartburg.
Really?
So, that's probably the most intense rivalry. I mean, the Cy-Hawk series with Iowa State is always colorful. Now, and I don't think they don't compete for anything, but in the ACC, Virginia Tech and NC State, they're getting nasty with each other when they. I mean, it's the coaches are jawing, the fans are jawing. I mean, I both of those schools were clients of mine at one point too. So they would be jawing and I'd be like, I hate when mom and dad fight. It's like so. But I'd say Augsburg and Wartburg is probably the most significant one that's of all divisions. At D1, a lot of the teams don't want to wrestle anybody anymore. And then, Oklahoma with Bedlam, but it is what it is there. Oklahoma State dominates that series. So a lot of the series are one-sided. So, but yeah. So, I mean, Iowa's dominated the Iowa State series. So,
quote unquote belt rivalries.
There's only
college
one.
Football, it's buckets and bells and whatever else they give away.
The
for
old
wrestling.
You got an old oaken bucket, the little brown jug.
Just
I think
knickknacks.
I think my alma mater has a
bronze pig
or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, we need a stupid knickknack from St. Thomas.
We need a stupid knickknack sponsor. We need a sponsor to do the stupid knickknack. That's what you need.
I need to get on the horn. Thanks for reminding me that. I've been slacking Gary.
The gritty St. Cloud. We could
give him a call.
Hey, it's funny. The Cramp Aid guy does follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
He follows me too, and which is weird.
Yeah, but he doesn't follow me because of hockey. He follows me because of wrestling. Okay, we're talking hockey, right? Where were we at? Where were we? We were talking. We
So you're
mentioned 2 of the 3 captains, 2 of the 4 captains, or the 8 captains.
Yeah, you're getting the vibe here that we tend to drift.
I will try to help right this ship as best I can.
No.
I'm not doing a very good job.
Not for off season, at least.
Yeah. We don't need to stick to script.
You have a script? I was under the impression we didn't.
Script in the
artistic
royal
sense.
The battle for the Saints script. There we go. That's the traveling trophy. Just send your script to down to Rico, and then he'll sign off on it with Lars, and we'll be good to go.
Yep. There we go.
Let's get that ball rolling. I guess the only other implications about that, the St. Thomas entering the conference that we should discuss, news that came out since our last podcast, the playoff format, which again we were sort of speculating what were they going to do with a 10-team league. What they're doing in the 2 years now that Arizona State's in the league, it'll be a 9-team league.
9 teams.
See, I'm on it now, but they're just dropping the 9th place team and doing a best of 8 format, 2 out of 3 the first round, and then a final 4. This year it'll be at the X for one final time, and then it'll be all on campus.
The last hurrah.
6. And
the end of the era for me too.
Yeah.
Since Dad and I have gone for that since 2000, so it'll be a little bit bittersweet. I got to think of a toast that I
what?
Have. Yep, exactly.
He's right. He's well ahead of us. So just the one more X, then 25, 26, it'll be best of 8, same format, but that'll all be on campus sites. And then for 26, 27, when St. Thomas joins, they are going to include all 10 teams. And so they're going to have a first round, 2 out of 3, 1 versus 10, 2 versus 9, 3 versus 8, and so on, to get to a final 5, which then they're going to do the 4-5 game at the site of the number 1 seed, the remaining number 1 seed, because they're going to reseed after each round. But most likely it'll be the number 1 seed who's going to be hosting the second place, or the second round semifinals against the lowest remaining seed. But prior to that team will be decided by a 5 versus 4 game at the neutral site of the first place team, which is, I like that idea, because that's what they were going to do. That's what they'd announced, that they were going to have what was going to be 8-9 game at the site of the number 1 seed prior to the first round 2 out of 3 series. That's what they're going to do earlier. That's when they had first announced it. And then they decided after their coaches meetings, let's just not do that. Let's just drop the 9th place team for logistics. I was kind of curious to see what would happen with like attendance and atmosphere at a game between 2 teams in another school's rink. Well, we're going to have some data on that, and it'll have a little bit more stakes to that game, because instead of being 8-9 kind of toilet bowl situation, this will be the 4-5 matchup. As they used to do the old Final 5 at the X, you'd have the 4-5 game there on the Thursday. This is kind of going to be the same thing. It's the day before what will be the semifinal against the top seed. They will host that 4-5 matchup. So you get all 10 teams participating in the tournament. You get that weird kind of 4-5 game at a different school's rink, and then everything else proceeds as was to be expected. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on this revamped or tweaked, let's say, 10-team NCHC playoff format starting in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Having that Friday, I like having just, one game, everybody can tune in. I do wonder what that is going to be, how that's going to work with CBS Sports, if that still is going to be a partner or if it's going to go all to streaming. But especially what that's going to happen on, the next day on Saturday's game, when it comes down to it, as are they going to stagger those times so everybody can tune in to watch those games, or are they going to kind of go on at the same time? Single elimination, kind of back and forth. So I that is what I find kind of the most interesting aspect. I would rather have it staggered, but I can see where, like the Matskos of the world would want to stick to their routine of having the 7:30 game at the same time, because I have to have my pregame naps and my carbo loads and my masseuse or whatever that goes into a pregame ritual. And then, the championship game, it says tentatively Friday or Saturday. So they're giving themselves some leeway, which I do like. I would imagine though, that's going to be on Saturday. When it comes down to it, but, kind of curious on Jason's perspective of this, in a couple of years, let's just say you are, set up to be the home, you're the top seed, you're sitting there, you've got the 4 and 5 seeds going at it. You're there in the booth. Like how do you prepare? How do you get hyped for it? Are you just kind of like, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do my job with no infliction for anybody's goal? Are you treating them all like the enemy, or do you have to give some kind of cadence to the higher seed, or do you get instructions on that, or you just, how would you kind of prepare for that?
I would treat it as I would any other event that I'm brought in, not as a home announcer. So at the NCAA championships or the Big Ten championships, or, whichever event I work, I give a pop for both wrestlers. So, let's use D3, for example, use Augsburg and Wartburg. They're coming out the tunnel, in the red from they get the pop, in the green, they get the pop. So I would probably do it. I would obviously not go full on homer like I would do for the Huskies, but a good moderate, like, I was listening to the guy that did the D1 championship, the Frozen Four this year, and I'm like, you probably could have gotten a little bit more of a pop on some of these goals for these teams, for both of them. So, if it's Arizona State and Omaha, I would call it the same way. It's going to get, good inflection. It's not going to be booming like an Okabe goal for any reason, but it's going to be, it's a championship. Plus, in that situation, the way the NCHC is situated, that game is going to mean something for the pairwise. It's going to mean something for getting into the tournament. So there's a lot on the line. So why would the host school just kind of sell out that game? Because it's good for the conference if you're getting in. Granted, you're the host school, they're going to maybe, do you fire them up too much? No, you don't want to fire them up too much. It'd be like, but I would call it down the line. I would give both teams a moderate pop. I wouldn't go over the top for either one of them. You don't play favorites down there. So
an entertainment aspect to it.
Plus it's from where I also sit, I get to watch a game that I'm not emotionally invested in from one of the best spots in the rink. I'm right on the glass. So as a pure, I would say I'm not a lifelong hockey fan like you guys are, but it's like, as a hockey fan and as somebody who likes the sport, it would allow me to take emotion out of it and watch the game, from a different angle. So that's one thing I would be all for it. I inquired about the Frozen Four. I inquired about events that don't involve the Huskies in terms of, championship stuff. I've already sent Coach Larson an email about the World Juniors next year. So it's like, I'm
sure.
Those are things that I'm interested in doing. So if there's it's a neutral game on our ice, I'd love to do it. And I do it. I feel like I do a pretty good job at it.
Are you able to go as
unless
a fan?
It's at school in Grand Fork? No, I'm just kidding.
Obviously. No, that's a given. So we're okay there.
Are you kidding? That's a joke. It's a joke.
We did a sell button.
It's a joke.
Trademark. We need a sound button for a disclaimer of like the really fast guy talking. It's like not necessarily representative of the views. Blah, blah, blah.
Plus ticket, title, license, and shirt. I might be able to do that for you guys too.
Perfect, thanks. Are you able to go as a fan, like two places, and not judge the announcer, or are you just like, oh, I would have done it?
God, dude, that's one of the worst things about going to a sporting event. I'm not fun in that regard because I'm like, it's like, and you know what? There's PA announcers Facebook groups, so a lot of the times I'll know at least the name of the guy doing it, or if I don't know, I'll like, hey, who's the PA guy here? It's been a long time since I've heard somebody that's just like, oh God, they suck. So, and I know the guy, like for example, Andrew, Westad at St. Thomas. I couldn't hear him the first time I was in their barn because it was, it's a high school rink, so the acoustics aren't what they are. And then, I hear him obviously just through the TV when they played the Gophers at the X last year. And I'm like, okay, this is a much better representation of this guy as a PA announcer. So again, sometimes you're hamstrung by the facility. But yeah, sometimes I'll it's not necessarily a rink, but it'll be a couple places. I'm like, and I try to put it out of my head. But in wrestling, it's hard because I'm kind of I'm not a control freak. Well, I'm a control freak, complete control freak, but I'm also a stats and data guy. And it's one of those things where if something's wrong and I hear it, and it's like especially in wrestling, I'm like, no, I just like, I cannot, I have to like just hold back because I really don't go to a lot of events as a fan as much as I'm usually there, but I like going as fan, but I just, I've got wife and kids. When I'm traveling, I'm gone for a week or two at a time, and I'm, St. Cloud's a 55-minute drive from the house. So I try to maximize that time away. Like, okay, I'm working. I'm getting a check, but I'm leaving the house. It's so there's that. But yeah, it is. Sometimes it's hard. I went back for a hockey game back where I grew up in Virginia. I watched an Admirals game in the ECHL, and the announcer did a pretty good job. And I'm sitting there thinking, how would I do this? That's kind of how I would picture it. It's not like I'm better than that guy. It's like, how would I do? How would I do this sport? How would I do this venue? This arena sounds good. How would I call that goal? Because that's kind of, I've gotten used to how I do it with the Huskies. It's just like, how would I do this impartially? Like kind of alluding to your question earlier. So I'm always kind of thinking, how could I do something in that facility?
Did you get any pointers or like when you started, and I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead, but screw it. Did you, were they very much like, make it your own, or were they like, we got to do it this way for some things, or, kind of how, when you created your persona there in between the penalty box, how did that come about?
Trial and error, because I've actually explained this a couple times, and I was actually talking to Steve Tilseth at the scrimmage this week. I went up and watched one of the scrimmage days for Pro Camp, and he'd kind of asked me, about following Chuck, and I go, I never heard Chuck. So I didn't have anything to basically guide me. I had no preconceived notion of how it's done at St. Cloud or how it's done. I got on YouTube a lot, and I was like watching how, again, back to the Facebook group where people would post their reels and stuff. And I'm like, okay, let me try this. And then, I'd look at some of the NHL clips and stuff, and I'm like, okay, how is this called? And how is it clear? How is the tone? What is the cadence like with penalty? Or, things of that nature. Like the first game I did with St. Thomas 2 years ago, we had the ref mics. Well, the first feedback I got from my wife, who was in the stands, like, yeah, I couldn't hear what the refs were saying. I'm like, well, I guess I'm saying the penalties from here on out, because then I found out, ref mics are dicey no matter what the facility is. So I'll come across on that. And then, but just I molded my sheet. I've got a sheet where I write down one half, and that's modified to the point where I can write it down quickly and have it bang, bang, bang out quick. So a couple things is just terminology, differences between a program and the college game, game misconduct, getting the right terminology. So I don't have the phone, like the text, like, hey, that was not a game misconduct. Well, the referee next to me said it was a game misconduct, even though, just simple things about getting it right. That's the one thing I want to do. I worry about the most is I say the wrong thing, everybody's going to hear it. And most people in the building from St. Cloud know that I'm still the new guy. Granted, I've gone through 2 years. So the style is less as important.
You're going to be the new guy for the next 15 years, just so you know.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Cause 32 years is, geez. So let me think. If I backtrack 32 years minus, so it's been 34 years. So let's see. I was 22? No, I was 12. Wait, yeah, I was 12 when Chuck started. So yeah, but style wise, it's like, okay, how do I want the goal called? It starts out, a different way. And then, some names just come to you, like Okabe with the hat trick against UND that first year it immediately became my favorite name to say when I was waiting for his breakout. Yeah, it's like he had a little bit of a lull last year, and I'm like, man, come on. I want number 14 to score so I can draw the O out and get the place nuts, because I kind of, I don't really get to do that a lot with the NCAAs type of stuff and the Olympic type stuff, because there's a line. You're not so over the top where it's annoying, but where you're the home announcer, you do things a little different. So that style, I'm still kind of working on it. What do I like? What names? One syllable names are very hard. Sell the opponent to a point at your place. So, you don't want to give their traveling party anything to cheer about. So just little nuances, like I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to say full strength anymore with the opposing team, because there's always the guy sitting behind you that's going, always were. Not in my house. You're not going to say that anymore. So we're going to return to 5-on-5 hockey. It's not really glamorous to say we'll be back to full strength, but I'm not going to give you the opportunity to undermine our team and our barn. That's just those are things I'm learning about, again, with the terminology and just understanding the sport and the rivalries and the fans a lot more. Cause I've found college hockey is freaking awesome. I freaking love it. So again, circling back to your question, it's just feel, I'll try sometimes I'll pop an intro and I didn't like how that felt, and I'll try it a different way. And it's just all with what works. And sometimes you're at the mercy of how many people are in the stands, because the acoustics at the Herb, they sound so much better when it's a full barn. So when you got 5,000 people in there, you're not going to get the slap back off of the empty bleachers in the corners and things of that nature, like you will if it's 3,100 in. So that's a hint, Husky Nation. Let's get to the Herb. I sound better when you're at the Herb. How's that?
We need to make sure Jason sounds his best, so everybody's got to get out there.
Yes, let's make this all about me.
Yes,
I'm kidding, of course.
So then, you get the pronunciation guides, and then you've got the newcomers coming in. Do you talk with them first? Do you kind of get a feel for them and be like, hey, how do you want it said? How do you say it so I can say it, or do you just kind of?
Yeah, it's a lot of that. So red black game is pretty much where I'll go in and meet the guys for the first time that are the new guys. So Coach Larson usually gives me about 5 minutes. The first year I was kind of like, I was like, guys, I'm a wrestling guy doing hockey, and the whole team was great the first time. Spencer Meyer he was one of the first guys I met when I was just doing a tour right after I got the gig, and I ran into him at Hallenbeck, and Andrew Melro, the SID, introduced me, and every time Spencer was always coming up saying hi, so that I was welcomed pretty good. And then just making sure, I'd look at him, it's like, is it this? No, it's like, all right, okay. And I'd take a shot at it and be like, yeah. They're like, no. I was like, okay. It's like, and they're like, nah, it's either way. I was like, what does your mother want to hear? That's how I did it. It's like, it's like, no, you don't care. What does your mother want to hear? That's what usually gets them to be like, oh yeah, Joseph. That's where, Joey, Joseph, Joseph, So so I'll go in before the game, and the opposing teams, like the line charts almost always have pronunciation guides on them. College Hockey Inc. actually sends out a national list for each team. I had that the first year. And then the NCHC also has it for the referees. So in doing all these foreign names, the foreign names is not a problem. I will say the Swedes and the Finns with the umlauts do kind of mess things up. Being here in Minnesota, I got a little bit of that. But the main thing is just like, I'll ask, like, Andre Treball was one. It wasn't his name, it was his hometown. It's like, how do we say it was, I think, Hamrinat Sazavu, and he goes, yeah. So, in some things too, is if I know people from all around the world through wrestling, and I've got a friend from Estonia. Whenever I have a question on an Estonian, I'll send her a Facebook message and she'll say it back to me. I don't have to do that in hockey, but yeah, it's I hear it a couple times. Aiden Spelasi was a real hard one for me to get through the first couple times he was on the ice. I kept wanting to say Spalasi. You guys know what that's like with his name.
We said it every possible way.
I think we still say it wrong.
Jack Peart started on Peart. I was just gonna say,
like Jack Peart I was like Peart. He goes, and he grabbed his ear like ear. And I was like, oh, Peart. And he goes, yeah. So that one's one that was easy.
Did we say, because I know I butchered it many times, did I say Lidke correct?
Yeah, it's Lidke. Yeah.
Okay. Because I've said Ludke.
Not to be confused with the Omaha guys who are Ludkes.
Right. Yeah, that's clear as mud.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mudwater, whatever it is. What was the previous show sponsor? But yeah, getting those names right is important because it's I have one job. Like, really, I have one job. The inflection doesn't matter if you're saying it wrong. You know, it's like that Snickers commercial with the PA announcer, like trying to announce the Yugoslavian dude. It's like, or is it, was it Southwest? Yeah, want to get away? Wasn't. So,
oh yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes when you botch one, usually with the opposing team, just let it go. You don't correct it midstream. It's like if you said it wrong, you correct it the next time. Don't draw attention to your screw up.
Those are always my favorites. When every once in a while, like when Chuck would do it and he would kind of stumble on something, he would just kind of go, "Oops." Just the dog pound would just crack up laughing.
That was another thing too. Is it's not necessarily. It's like, again, kind of getting into the game ops a bit. The first game. Okay, so to back up a little bit, the first college hockey game I ever announced was the third one I ever saw. So I didn't know about the 1 minute thing. I didn't know, so like the dog pound is tweeting at me mid-game. Like that feeling when you ask at Jason M. Bryant how much time's left in a period and he ignores you. And I'm like, what? So then Chuck's daughter, Debbie, is an off-ice official. Mm-hmm. And she says, hey, you haven't been saying 1 minute to go in the period. I'm like, what's that? Oh, yeah. So the first two periods of my first game, I missed it. I had no idea. And then the third period, I always look at the dog pound when I do it. I was like, 1 minute remaining in the period. And they're like, thank you. I'm like, that will never happen again. Of course, it's happened 1.5 times.
Yeah. Since. Like, do you have like a little buzzer that comes off? Or
no,
you just have to
the
watch?
Off-ice officials that'll yell a minute to a minute. And then, Rick's usually next to me. He's like 20 seconds, and so then I'll start standing up. And I'll start looking at the clock, depending on which way the ice is going. If we're skating that way, I've got the clock up doing this. If we're there, it's like, okay. And then I got to look at the dog. I was like, okay, make sure the other team's not scoring. So I'm not looking away. It's just like, because, with the bars in front of me, it's kind of sometimes the vantage point, depending on what side you're shooting at, is a little difficult. So, but yeah. And I hate it when we get penalties. I don't mind it when we score, but it's when they score or there's a penalty right at like 101. Or 59, like a whistle blows, right? It's just like, ugh. And then this past year, I did have the less than a minute remaining in the game. I caught it around 58 seconds or 57. I'm like, I missed it. So sometimes there's just action going on. I'm very aware of it, but I prefer not to miss those things because those are the things that the fans will remember. Mm-hmm. Hey, you missed the minute. You missed the minute. So.
When everything that I kind of wonder, like conversations that you have, like so the people next, I mean, obviously, Debbie being an off-ice official, kind of her capacity, but like when you're with, like, do you have like, are they NCHC off-ice officials or are they just hired by also the university? And
yeah, they represent the NCHC, but they are hired through the schools. So they're all local. Hockey people, they're not allowed to cheer down there. So down there we've got the score. You got to run the scoreboard. The guy doing the official scoring. They're with me, and then 2 people working each penalty box. So, and then the one in the visitors penalty box has the pucks in the freezer down there. So that's how that kind of works. And and I've got the phone, which is they got the scorekeepers upstairs, basically up where the press area is, and they'll call down with the official goals, but once things are official. So that's kind of how that works. There's like 5 I don't even know who's all up there, honestly. So somebody's manning the phone calling me, or they're texting Rick, because what helps is when Rick gets a text, he'll get them right away. And half the time I've gotten them written down already, because I'm my just knowing how to follow the game and the referees that skate over going 3-4, and I've gotten to the point where I can actually, when I see the puck go in, I'm like, I'm excited because I saw that, because it's such a fast game. So the first couple games, I'm like, oh crap, I didn't see that. Like, who was it? Like I'm waiting. My goal calls are so long. I was so long those first couple games. Now I'd love to have it ready by the face-off. Sometimes that's not likely, because they're reviewing something for the assist to get that right. But ultimately,
they've got reviews.
Yeah, well, not those type of reviews, but I mean, like, they're trying to get the official scoring right, so we can drop the Husky goal and then things of that nature. So and everybody down there has been amazing too, because I ask a lot of stupid questions, especially the first year. I'm like, and they Rick and Shane and Debbie and Jeff and Jay down there, like Mike, Tony, like I'm just, it took me like a whole season to remember all their names, first of all. So it's like, yeah, last names, don't ask me that. But, with them, as I'm asking questions about this and like, okay, yeah, that's there. I was like, no, why is that? And they know that I'm not coming from hockey as a lifer. So they've been extremely welcoming. So that's another thing. They've made me feel very at home, even though they knew I was the new guy, and they were all friends with Chuck. So, it's literally, I hear the big shoes to fill thing probably once a game.
Yeah,
I think they've gotten used to it. But yeah, I mean, I hear it. Usually when I meet somebody that's, oh yeah, it's like. And again, I've met Chuck a couple times. Matter of fact, the first time I met him was they brought him back to work the penalty box against Mankato for homecoming that first year when they were ranked number 2 in the country. And we dropped. I talked to the headset Nora Leeser on associate AD and senior women's administrators on the headset, along with Eric, who does the music and usually a GA in marketing. We're all on the headset, and I was like, hey, let's introduce Chuck. And they're like, okay, they got the Parker Kaiser down in the control room. They got the GoPro with the penalty box cam, and Chuck sitting there. Make sure Chuck sits down, and he's on screen. And then we introduced him there. So that was one thing that was kind of cool. Is I reached out to Debbie pretty early, like, hey, and I read about Chuck's medical, his stroke right at the end of that season before. So I tried to educate myself as much as I could on the situation and made sure that I wasn't trying to be the guy who's coming, this is mine now. No, I was just, I'm new here. I'm still new here. I'm still learning things about the sport. I'm learning things about the history, not just hockey, but the school itself. So,
and you choose our podcast to listen to.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of them out there. A lot of people that live in and around St. Cloud do hockey podcasts. Go figure. So it's one of those things. So it's been, that first year really was a trial by fire, and I kind of got spoiled by it because we got ranked number 1 in the country that year, and I'm like, holy crap, we're pretty freaking good. So I got a little spoiled by it, honestly, and it's. And also like the first experience is like, okay, we've got a 10-round shootout. I don't have this on my sheet. Like, every time something new happens,
nobody wants to relive that shootout.
I then prepare Micah Miller shoot first next time, because he did the next night. But it's one of those things where it just getting prepped and just everything that goes along with it. I try to get to the games 2 hours early. I go through my little routine. I walk my lap. But there's a lot more to it. But again, dealing with the introduction and being comfortable around people that don't know my sense of humor. They have now figured out I never shut up. And it's a lot. We have a lot of fun down there, even though I'm the only one that actually gets to cheer.
Sure enough.
Have we run out of words yet? Because I felt like I don't even know if I answered your question. What was it?
No, honestly, I don't remember. So you probably answered it.
So we're on track with the normal run of the show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
So since I kind of alluded to the number of reviews and whatnot, so you're privy to some of those conversations between the refs. Are you able to kind of listen in to see what the refs are talking about? I try,
but so the video is right behind me, and if you're watching on Fox 9 Plus. Gino Parrish will sometimes often or the headset people like, Jason, you're on screen, and I'll turn and I am 100% that guy to start waving or do something stupid. I've got something planned for that this year that marketing and promotions doesn't know about yet, but I'm sure it's one of those things. Like I think there was one last year. It's like Jason, you're on screen, and then it was a review for a 5, and the screen is behind me, but it's on the wall, so I got to kind of arch back and kind of look, and then you got all the fans that are kind of like hanging over as well, trying to look at it. You got the two, they're talking upstairs. They've got the headset thing on. So it's kind of hard to see exactly where I'm at, but then the ref will come up most of the time and tell me what they're going to call on the ice. So I can have that ready when they make the call on the ice, and then I'll repeat it. And, hear either the rain of booze or the rain of, Jeff over to my left with his 3 blind referees kind of outfit that he wears. So, it's one of those things. So I don't, sometimes I get a pretty good view of it. And then when they cut over to Fox 9 with the camera right across, and they could see me kind of arching back. I'm like, I look really uncomfortable down there.
You had mentioned that there's a official scorer in the box with you along with the timekeeper, but then there's also additional scorers up top.
Yeah, they're tracking 16's got the puck, 34's got the puck, back to 16. So they're kind of doing that. So more spotters, and then they've got different things that they track up there to make sure the official scorekeeper doing the live stats for through Andrew or somebody on his staff is doing that. So there's a lot of moving parts to get the stats right.
And those are also locals who are,
as far as I know,
contracted but
they're
working
not,
for the conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because when they get the gear, they get a nice NCHC coat. Their coat doesn't say St. Cloud State on it; it says NCHC, or they get a hat that says something with the league on it. So
are they good quality, or did they kind of skimp out on the material?
They're CCM stuff.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
They haven't been bought out by Fanatics yet. For our audio listeners, Jason had a completely blank look on his face. And,
no, that's me buying the Fanatics shirt for Paris. That I ended up wearing most of the time because the production team in Paris forgot to get us stuff, or the organizing committee. But anyway, that's
you were in Paris.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oui.
Sure, we'll get to that.
Well, let's get to it. How was it?
Pretty freaking good. I mean, it's the Olympics. It's Paris. I was underneath the Eiffel Tower for almost 2 weeks. My wife came out to visit the last 2 days. Then we went to Germany and saw Adele and did beer gardens and stuff. So the whole trip was amazing.
That's...
There for wrestling, I would assume.
Yeah. I buried the lead on that one. So I'm trying to be somewhat modest, but I am the English speaking announcer. And I couldn't say anything about this before the event because there's a non-disclosure agreement about working for a contractor for the Olympic Games. So I was working my 4th Olympic Games in Paris for wrestling. The 3rd one I've been the PA announcer for. So I'm the English voice you hear if you stumbled across wrestling on Peacock.
Wait a minute,
like that. I was the voice you heard in the background.
If you've done it 3 Olympics, like there's still an NDA you have to sign for the 4th. They wouldn't be like you've done it for 3. Everyone probably already.
I think it's not because of I think it's the people that'll burn them that they're worried about. Again, one bad apple kind of thing. So the IOC hires the organizing committee. The organizing committee then hires subcontractors for various things. In this case, it's sports presentation. They went through a company. They then hired RWS Global, which used to be known as Great Big Events, a worldwide events company. So they're based out of Australia. They're now RWS Global, has offices in the UK. So then they go through the previous games and talk to the previous production people and producers and be like, all right, and the international federations be like, okay, who do you want for this role? And United World Wrestling is it's like what the IIHF is to hockey, United World Wrestling is to wrestling. So UWW have been doing their world championship since 2015. They put my name in. I was, to my knowledge, the only English name that was considered. So I was pretty confident I was gonna get this one. But again, I don't work for the IOC, and I also I wasn't supposed to talk to media and things of that nature. So it's like what I say, it's kind of like this. I'm not speaking on behalf of anything St. Cloud State University related. This is my opinion. But again, don't want it to be misconstrued that Olympic announcer says if I, say something stupid, which I've said stupid things before. But it's in that case, they just want to protect themselves. They also want to protect the brand too. So I was hired by RWS Global. I wasn't hired by the IOC. So there's that. Yeah, I'm not representing the IOC, but I have a strict set of rules that I have to follow from the IOC to keep that gig. So certain things is like adhering to the script verbatim during victory ceremonies or medal ceremonies. So things like that. So
sure.
You play by the rules, I took a bunch of shots of stuff of me that I put up after the fact. They're fine. They're like, you can post on social, but you can't post that you're working the games. Whereas, on, the socials, they see me a picture in Paris, like with, there's the Eiffel Tower and the rings. They're like, we know what you're there for, even though you can't tell us what you're there for. So I can't disparage. So that's how that works. So, and it's boilerplate stuff. It's nothing that I mean, the first time I got it in Rio, I was a little disappointed, but then our USA Wrestling, or our national governing body, asked for permission to speak with me and my another English broadcaster that was there. So we were allowed to do an interview there in Rio, the first one. And then newspaper back home did a story on me. And then Tokyo, well, there was nobody there to talk to anyway. So it's not like, it's like, I couldn't even leave my hotel room in Tokyo. I was in my hotel room for the arena for 13 straight days. So
were you able to go to any other events, or
I went to judo because it was in our facility. So my credential only gave me a certain amount of access to certain places. I went and saw some beach volleyball, which was in the grounds, because if you saw the Eiffel Tower and then you'd see the beach volleyball facility, and then behind that was the Champ de Mars Arena. So that's where judo and wrestling was. So we were right there at the base of the Eiffel Tower. So unlike Tokyo, we were in Chiba, which is, probably 35 minutes from the cool stuff in downtown Tokyo. It's not like we could have seen it anyway. But the coolest thing we saw in Tokyo was the Chiba Lotte Marines baseball stadium at my hotel window. And then Rio, we were 45. We were staying at Copacabana, but we were in this Baja region, which wasn't super built up at the time, and probably isn't anymore either. But I saw some basketball there because those three arenas, the arena structure, I could get into three arenas plus the handball courts there with the credential because it was one grounds.
Sure.
And wrestling in Tokyo I was only in and out of wrestling. That was it. And then, I probably could see that's pretty much the only places I could have seen. It was anything in the Champ de Mars area, because they have these codes on the credential.
Gotcha. That's got to be just a amazing experience to be able to do that. It's
it is cool.
Awesome.
I'm not gonna lie. Awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I will say this though: when I'm announcing tournaments internationally, like 1 year I was in Baku, Azerbaijan, doing a World Cup in Greco-Roman, and I've got my earbuds in listening to Jim Erickson I was thinking I was either the Denver series or the CC series on the road. And I was listening to the game from Azerbaijan. I'm like, you know what? I cannot resist this opportunity. I'm going to text Erickson. It's 3:00 in the morning or something. I'm like, hey man, it's sounding great. Goes, what? Like, yeah, I'm in Azerbaijan right now. So,
coming back to St. Cloud State then. Although I guess quickly, how was Adele? Was Adele amazing?
Oh my God, dude! Okay, prior to this, the best concert I'd ever seen was back in 1997. I just graduated high school, and I got tickets, and this is in the anti-Ticketmaster regime.
Was a Lilith Fair.
No, it was Rage Against the Machine and Wu-Tang.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, at Meriwether Post, just outside of DC. So I drove up there. That was a mind-blowing show. Buffett was always, when I grew up in Virginia, he played a lot of Virginia Beach amphitheater. So seeing Jimmy Buffett live when it's just him was a great experience. And then Adele with 80,000 people, and we had amazing seats. We were like front of stage one, so we're like in that standing room pits, like on either side of where there's the stage. I mean, we were my best man at my wedding just pulled out. I don't know how he got these things, but we were in the we are way too common to be standing down here. But it was raining. I was like, it was pouring down rain. It was amazing. She crushed it. I mean, I'm familiar with her, but I wasn't like, I'm not an Adele stan by any sense of the imagination, but it was amazing. It was just the whole experience was nuts. So I think they said, I think I saw it actually, the group text that I'm in, we named Rolling Deep because we're all freaking 40 years old and stupid. Adele in Munich residency sold 730,000 tickets.
Whew.
Yikes. You know what?
Oh.
That proves my point. The more people that are there, the better you
The better
sound.
it sounds.
There
you go.
Yeah. So that was nuts. And then the beer garden, we went to the top of the Zugspitze, which was the highest mountain in Germany, which we had to get there from a train from Garmisch, which if you're counting now, that's Paris, that's Munich, and Garmisch. 3 Olympic cities on this trip. And Garmisch hosted the 36 Winter Games. And the base of the train station to get to the gondolas is right by the hockey rink that hosted the 36 Olympics, which I found out was won by Great Britain.
Great Britain.
Hockey. What?
Well, you know, hockey debuted at the Olympics in the Summer Games of 24, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it was outside, wasn't it?
It's bare. Who knows if he was even on ice? Like,
Who knows if it was even hockey?
You look at hockey back prior, I think 1940.
Could only pass it backwards.
1940 is when they put in the blue lines and the red llines. Like prior to that, it's not even like leather helmet football. Like that's a different sport altogether than what we call hockey today. Yeah. But
it's a different version of rugby, pretty much.
Well, and you mentioned, so Olympic, I didn't watch any. The only Olympics I caught this year was a little bit of that breakdancing thing. So as far as he's given the blank stare again, as far as the Olympic wrestling, what is that, an American kind of dominated event or what?
No,
who ends up winning?
Usually the Russians are typically the best, but despite the fact that there was no Russia formally, and they also didn't have any of their independent neutral athletes opted to compete. There were 2 Belarusians that had the AIN IOC code, but Japan balled out this year. I mean, their women's wrestling is just the best. It's been the best in the world since the inception. They won 4 of the 6 weight classes there. The U.S. won the other 2. Their freestyle, I mean, they won 8 of the 16 gold medals. And they're good. They were never. I mean, the women, they were viewed as the best. They always have been, and the U.S. has always been a strong number 2 in internationally in men's freestyle wrestling. So there's three wrestling styles or 3 disciplines. There's men's and women's freestyle. There's 2, and then Greco-Roman, which is just the upper body stuff, which Minnesota has a great history in. Minnesota Storm. There are 5 Olympians in Greco from Anoka High School alone. So, I mean, and 2 of which wrestled at St. Cloud State. Jim and Dave Hazewinkle were on those early NAIA teams back in the 60s at St. Cloud State. So there's good wrestling in the United States, and we won the last 2 world titles, but there's also 6 weight classes in the Olympics. There's 10 at the normal world championship. So 4 less weights to win medals in and get points and such. But the U.S., most people think we were kind of disappointed in our men's freestyle performance because they didn't win any golds for the first time since, I want to say 56, 56, I think. And Ed Spencer Lee, whose dad, Larry, was the director of finance at St. Cloud State and the acting president for about, month before he left to go to Blackburn. So there's another St. Cloud Olympic tie to it. So Spencer Lee, his son, was silver medalist, had 2 guys take bronze. So had some disappointment. One guy got a concussion, and then Greco, which has seen better days, they didn't win a match. So that was kind of hard for them. They qualified for the 6, but and wrestling, the Americans do very well. Men's freestyle, have won multiple world titles, won a lot of medals. The women are always a strong number 2 to Japan, and Greco did win a world title back in 2007, but has been on a slide recently. So,
gotcha.
Is it all individual at the Olympics? No team.
There is no team. They don't even do a team. They do a team trophy at the World Championships, but in the Olympics, it's medals table. It's not like judo where there's like a mixed team championship, which would be cool, but they haven't gotten to that point. There's talk about trying to get beach wrestling in. As a discipline to help eliminate the disparity between 2 men's styles versus 1 women's style, but ultimately the best countries in the world, speaking on the men's freestyle side, are Russian Federation, Iran, the United States. Japan has really good wrestling, as we know. Greco-Roman, Iran, Turkey. You've got Kazakhstan has really good wrestling. Kyrgyzstan's on the way up. The Eastern Europeans, Hungary loves Greco-Roman. So there's the European championships are, brutal. I announced them the last couple of years. So the Eastern European countries are really good at the Greco-Roman style, and freestyle is kind of a mixed bag on, where the dominance comes. I mean, the dominance is definitely with those countries I've named, but there are people from Germany that come out of nowhere. The Scandinavian countries typically leave the freestyle for the women. It's pretty much Greco on their end. But the Cubans are really good. The Canadian has a really good women's program. So that's kind of where we sit.
Great.
Have you made it to a lot of St. Cloud State wrestling?
Yeah, I started announcing for them this past season.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they got 5 or 6 home duels a year. So
is it Costanzo still the coach there?
Right? Yep. They've won 5 national titles.
Yeah.
Probably start the year would probably start the year ranked 3rd or 4th if I had to guess. Pretty good solid core coming back. Picked up a guy named LaRon Parks, who's a heavyweight. He was a Division II All-American at heavyweight. And then Notre Dame College in Ohio closed, and so not they didn't drop the program. The school closed. Done. So LaRon found a new home, and it's St. Cloud, and we've done really well with heavyweights because Brady Wilson, the assistant coach there, was one of the best Division II heavyweights. He wrestled at Minnesota State. He's been on staff for 13 years or something like that. Great guy out of Faribault. I actually played golf, so we had dual golf outings on last Friday. So last year I played with probably better than I ever have in my life. Actually,
there you go.
Played with Brady's high school coach and a couple wrestling alumni because last year I didn't know any hockey people. I was like, all right, I need to play with some hockey people to kind of meet people and stuff. This year it's like, okay, the hockey players are really good golfers. I need to go where the hackers are, and wrestlers love golf tournaments. They just you're not really. I was definitely capable with my competition at the wrestling thing, even though I did pick up a hockey jersey at the silent auction at the wrestling fundraiser. So go figure.
Weird how that all works out.
Yeah, I came home with a Pantown Brewing light, a bag of Starbucks that I won on a raffle, and a old Minnesota Wild autograph jersey from was it Stéphane Veilleux from like 2005.
Oh, Veilleux.
Hey,
sure enough. Yep.
Go figure. I get the Quebecers name right.
Yeah, Pantown is a good 4 blocks away from me. Stumbling distance across a railroad track, but
still haven't been there. I've consumed the Beaver Island multiple times. I just haven't been into their tap room yet. I was there the other day after the scrimmage with my daughter, and at the Chipotle. I was not at the brewery with my daughter.
Oh, the highly Schlossman rated Chipotle as his best rated St. Cloud restaurant.
So what I did there was back to the wrestling point is I started announcing wrestling last year. So I've got 2 sports at St. Cloud, and I also announced at Augsburg and at the University of Arkansas Little Rock. So I got 4 sports that I announced, 2 at St. Cloud, one's at Augsburg, one's at Little Rock, 3 are wrestling, one's hockey.
How long is the Little Rock commute?
Well, I don't drive, so there's that. But well, usually
you don't just hop on 35.
No, well, you can get most of the way there on 35,
right?
And you just kind of hang a right or hang a left when you get to Oklahoma. But yeah, so usually I do 2 or 3 of those matches a year. They only have the first year I did 4, they're 5, and they've only had a team for 5 years. So I've been with them since the start. Did a podcast chronicling their start. It's called Rocked Up. It's kind of the foundation of how you start a Division I program from scratch.
I was going to say D1.
So, yeah, they're a Division I. They had 2 All-Americans this year, first time in school history. So they went from not being a program 6 years ago, like nobody on their team, to having 2 guys on the podium, to being a top 20 team, and their coach Neil Arisman was the national coach of the year by 3 of the outlets that give out the award. So
I mean, having a Hall of Famer on the mic has to give, that's got to be some reason for their success, right?
Boost the program's kind of.
Hey, again, my alma mater dropped wrestling, so I was without a home. So I didn't have a D1 home anymore. So, and then at the time, Little Rock was ranked. When you're building a program from scratch, you're not going to be winning very much the first couple years.
Sure. Yeah.
So I had a team there that was, a family that kind of adopted me there. And it was, I'll either fly to Atlanta, connect to Atlanta, fly to Little Rock, or I'll fly to Memphis and drive 2 hours to Little Rock. So I at least try to get there once or twice a year. just because they've been great. It's been kind of cool to be part of something from the ground up. So.
Oh, definitely.
And then,
what do you fly then? Delta?
Yeah, I'm a Delta guy the entire way because connect out of Amsterdam, connect in Paris when I go overseas.
Got to get those Sky Miles.
I'm 28 minutes from MSP, so it's weird. It's weird. It's like we're talking about the St. Thomas stuff earlier. Like I'm closer to St. Thomas, even their ice arena than I am to St. Cloud. So like it's like the road game, which I did buy my tickets for today. Made sure I'm we're going to buy some tickets. I actually bought an extra one just in case I need some room or somebody else wants to go. So I'll be at St. Thomas Ice Academy Arena, whatever it's called again. Like the only road games I've ever seen in college hockey are there. So it's like the home games I've seen are at the Herb or at the Old World Arena when I lived in Colorado Springs, seeing a Colorado College Minnesota game years ago.
Man, what year?
That would have been, let's see, I lived there from 2009 to 2012, and it was before we had, so it would have been probably 11, I want to say. Matter of fact, I think I looked this up not that long ago. I think it was like, it was 9, I remember it was 9-4 the Gophers won. Do remember that.
Would have been in Lucia's kind of down period there. Like this would have been the Jacob Cepas years.
You can throw all the names you want at me. And
CC would have been pretty good back then.
I got nothing. I know there's a Gopher hockey player lives in my neighborhood. That's about it. And Mark Johnson's daughter lives in my neighborhood. So there's some things I've learned about hockey living in this neighborhood.
Sure enough.
But Husky wrestling, yeah, they're pretty good.
They've Stanza took over. I think it was my senior year.
And they were not good.
They were
when
very
Steve
bad
got here.
when Steve got here. So he was
seen better days.
Yeah, he was able to turn that program into the absolute juggernaut that it is right now. So kudos to him.
Yeah, and he won a national title in the NAI at Dana College before coming over. So I mean, he's familiar with large rosters and creating a family situation. Again, they've been great to me. So actually, here's the thing: everybody at St. Cloud State has been amazing. Initially it started as like the only person I knew was Andrew Melro, and then now, like it's nice to walk through and Holly always says hi, Nora, whatever. I don't ask for much, but they're just so accommodating, and it's been amazing to. I alluded to my alma mater dropping wrestling, and that was a very, very, that was not a good day for me. And it also has not been good for my relationship with my alma mater, who can quite frankly go, hey, you know what? I'll keep the podcast PG-ish, but
PG-ish.
I don't know if I want to say words like die and fires connected. That place has no love for me. They cast me off. They cut our 60 years of wrestling history and got rid of us and didn't even answer our questions about it. Because they wanted to go big boy football and add 20 scholarships and an AD who blamed Title IX 50 years after the law got passed. If you drop sports because of Title IX at the Division I level and you blame Title IX, you're not good at your job. Yeah. So yeah.
So you're saying there's those are two words there that would be in your New York Times connections, things that you would like to see happen to Old Dominion.
I don't wish harm on anyone.
No.
However, I was not disappointed when they lost yet another one-score football game to a bad team. Oh, good. You beat the spread against South Carolina. That's a bad SEC team. BFD, okay? Like they have not been good at anything except one postseason in baseball. They're okay. Tennis wins, big deal. Your fans don't care about tennis anyway. So you want to be bad at basketball? You want to be bad at football? Yeah, you're bad at everything. And that's the leadership's fault there. So
sure enough.
Thankfully, we've got a good family at St. Cloud State that gives a crap about its people. So
that's good. Now with your you get
was that rant good enough? No.
I liked it. No, I really liked it. I was trying to think of a way to come back to St. Cloud State. You
go Huskies.
Yeah, there we go. Now when was this just a job opening? Did you get, did they reach out to you, say, hey, you should apply to it? Was this something you were looking for? Something a little bit local? How did you get approached, or how did you find out about the position being open?
So I remember I mentioned the PA announcers Facebook group earlier. Well, I was scrolling through, and it was, I want to say it was May. Might have been May of whatever it was, 2.5 years ago, whatever. Like, so 2 years. Yeah. So whatever it was May of 22. Yeah. So 22, 23, 23, 24. Yeah. So May of 22. I was just scrolling and I saw the Husky logo, and I'm obviously been familiar with the St. Cloud C for years. I mean, I've had St. Cloud wrestling shirts for 20 years. So, and because I have a collection of, well, not a collection, I have just, people send me a lot of wrestling t-shirts. So I've had hundreds of them.
I think you could call that a collection. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't keep them all, but I have had, a lot of Brewer shirts and a lot of wrestling shirts. The only hockey shirts I own are the Norfolk Admirals and the St. Cloud State Huskies. So, but yeah, I saw this thing. It said, the people like, hey, check this out. And it was the audition press release. Like, hey, are you interested? And I saw it and I showed it to my wife, and she's a Minnesota native, and she's like, you should do it. I'm like, well, it's like an hour away. I thought this is who gets on a plane to fly to Little Rock, Arkansas to announce wrestling. I was like, I hadn't worked hockey since I worked in the minors as a broadcast intern my first year in college, 1997, 98. Like, it really wasn't a great experience from the broadcast side because I was an intern and didn't get taught anything. And I love the Admirals, but I really didn't. I played some roller hockey growing up, outdoors, but I really, my knowledge of the game was pretty limited. So I was kind of worried about going into something that I hadn't jumped onto a new sport in a long time. So I saw it and I read the application thing. It's like, hey, here it is. Here's a sample script. Can you provide, any samples with it? And I had what we do with the D1 Wrestling Championships is all those sponsor reads stuff. Me and my co-announcer, Brian Hazard, we've convinced the NCAA to like, hey, let us pre-record those so we don't kill our voices for an hour doing just PSA reads and sponsor reads and advertising reads before we actually start the wrestling tournament. Because we did this the first couple of years, and it was like, so I had these things saved. So I just dropped 4 or 5 of them in there and, read. And the thing I had to do is like, all right, I had to look up how to say what Hamrinad Sazavu Czechia, how to say some of I didn't know any of the players. I didn't know where. I was like, okay. And I'm like, how do you say these names? So I had to do research on the pronunciation, trying to find the pronunciation guide. So I sent it in there. And then about a week later, I got an email back from Andrew Melro, who was, the SID. And he said, yeah, hey, congrats, you're in round 2. What, in-person interview or in-person tryouts are going to be, here, which date works for you. And I had known Andrew from when he was at the University of Missouri. He was my wrestling contact there because I coordinate the D1 wrestling coaches poll. So the us show of wrestling, I coordinate that. So I do the coaches votes. And,
does somebody vote Brown all the time?
No.
Okay.
Brown does have wrestling. Can't tell you the last time. I could tell you the last time they've been ranked, but I don't really need to go on that tangent. So I sent Andrew a note. I was like, hey, kind of weird to get I told him the date, and I said, and I kind of a PS like, hey, kind of weird to get a hockey email from a wrestling guy, huh? And he goes, actually, I was gonna ask, So he in high, after the fact, he goes, yeah, dude, when I saw your name come through, I was like stoked because he knew I lived low. He knew I was up here. And he had, we'd worked, not worked together, but we had crossed paths when he was at Mizzou. And then, I go into the Herb, and having never been in the building before, I'd been on ice twice in my life prior to that point. I'd only been to one college hockey game in my life prior to that point. That was the CC game in Minnesota. And I went down and, I didn't even think I did that great on the audition because I freaking didn't know how to read a line chart. Like, why the hell aren't these numbers in order? Give me a numerical roster here. And, they call down, they give me the sample goal, and I call it, and they kind of ask me, like, what makes you think you can do this? I'm like, dude, I've done the Olympics, man. Nothing's more pressure packed than that. So honestly, that was kind of honestly, nothing is more pressure packed than the Olympics. So, about a week later, I got the call. I was actually picking up my daughters from their summer camp. And, I had the plugged in with my brand new Subaru, which was not from St. Cloud Subaru, even though they are proud season sponsors of Husky
season
Hockey.
Sponsors of Huskies Hockey.
Hey, the Subaru, the Outback that was on the ice last year, the Wilderness Edition's the exact same car I have. The white.
Oh, there you go.
Girls call it Golden Bits. So, got the call, and little negotiation on what we're working with, and then I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. And then the second game I went to was the St. Thomas game, and was trying to listen to Westad on the PA. I think it's Alex Westad, not Andrew. And I could not hear anything in St. Thomas Ice Arena. So I was like, well, that was no help. We won the game, which was nice. And I'm standing there just kind of chatting. My buddy Bill Hupp was doing the play-by-play for St. Thomas. He's a guy that used to write for me when I was working for the Coaches Association. So it was like, oh, there's a guy. Go we out and get a drink or so afterwards. And then as I was walking out, I'm wearing the Husky jacket that they had given me, like, when I got the job. I did the red-black game. That's where I met everybody and introduced the lineups and just kind of sat back and walked around, met people at the Herb. And one guy walking out, like, I'm nobody knows who the hell I am. I'm not in the hockey space, but I am wearing my Husky jacket, like kind of right upstairs where KVSC was. And the guy's walking by, goes, hey, he goes, welcome, welcome. And I'm like, somebody recognize me? What the hell? So that was pretty cool right off the bat. I don't know who that dad or parent or alumni was, but that was like one of those things before I even said my first real words. Oh, wow. I was already welcome. So that was always kind of cool. And then the next game, we get to it, but yeah, that's kind of how I'm getting way ahead of myself, but yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And there was some talk about moving me upstairs next to Eric and the sound guy. Cause vantage point up there is better. I'd be next to the scorekeepers that are calling things out. But I did that first game down there on the ice of St. Thomas. I was like, no, I am here. This is, I need to be here. I learned so much down there. I'd probably be too many distractions up there, but that's kind of how it happened. And I have loved it ever since, because it's what I love about it is, I can, I'm a hired gun when Augsburg brings me in, when Little Rock brings me in, but it's a little different because as much as I love wrestling, we don't get huge crowds for regular season events. Like, we get big crowds at the NCAA Wrestling Championship. We get 3 straight days of 18,000 people. It's a lot like the Frozen Four. I went to the Frozen Four this year, and it was like, wow, wrestling people and hockey people, they like to drink. I like that. They're a very sociable group. I was like, we got a lot in common here, even though my hockey playing friends are like, how do you say wrestlers and hockey players are similar? Oh, there's another story about that. But ultimately, like, getting when that crowd erupts, I hear it at the NCAAs, but I'm getting that now 17, 18 times a year. And it's infectious. Like, and then, there's a knowledgeable crowd is helpful. So sure. That's one of those things where it's like, okay, winning teams help too. I mean, if we were 3-30-2 that first year, I don't know if I would have really enjoyed it that much, because, we had that, we hit a slump. It's like, everybody gets down, but I fell in love with college hockey.
A swoon.
Literally. It was the Mankato series that I think locked me up. The St. Thomas series, like, well, the home and home, the first game, I didn't have the stats written down for the post-game recap. And I'm still learning, but I was like, oh, okay, I need to prepare this. So from there, I now have sheets that I print out on cardstock each game that are, okay, here's the lineup card that goes in a sleeve, or the line charts. And I just have a system where I can, okay, I get this. And I go, but getting the gig was honestly one of the best things I think that's ever happened to me, because it gave me another outlet for just my general fan of I love college and Olympic sports. I'm not as big of a pro sports fan. I'm an Angels fan, so I've checked out about the All-Star break for the last 20 years. As a Bucks fan, I've had 2 good years ever. Growing up without hockey, and I hate all DC area teams, so the Caps are kind of out. Although we've got 4 guys in the Caps pipeline right now, so that makes it, I might have to hope for them to get called up. So then I have a reason to root for the Caps. But, getting hockey helped kind of re-energize my passion for what I do. I love doing what I do. And I like, when having a crowd makes it that much better. And, having a winning program is just icing on the cake. So when you get like, I will draw this back to Okabe almost every time I get to tell the story, the Hattie against UND, and just it wasn't, I don't script this stuff out, how I'm going to say names, to kind of to the point earlier. It's just, that was feel. Yeah. When he hit that third one, that's the first Hattie I ever got to call. And I just let that O go. And it was freaking exhilarating. Like, just, you're an extension of the 5,000 people at the Herb. It's just, it fired me up. And it's nice that it's also like, wrestling is what I do. It's what I love. It's part of, I'm a geek about wrestling because I'm working on historical databases and stats and spreadsheets and learning MySQL stuff and pulling up all sorts of archive stuff. I've got stuff in wrestling history nobody else has because I'm the only one's ever taken the time, spend the time to do it. Thankfully, I'm in a situation with, job-wise, I kind of pick my own hours and, I run my own business and such where I can have that flexibility to be with the kids or just, I'm going to get on a whim and do this project. Mm-hmm. So what I love about college hockey is I am a fan of college hockey. I'm not trying to be anything more than the PA announcer in a St. Cloud State homer. Because now, granted, if there's the opportunity to do Frozen Fours and, things like that, World Juniors, Olympic Games, all for it, but I've got that experience in being impartial, but the being able to get in the car and listen to Jim Erickson on the postgame show and that 1 hour afterwards and listen to, or have, plug my phone in and have NCHC TV going through the car and picking up the other games and then getting home and watching the Alaska games with the guys in like the college hockey Reddit, subreddit Discord. Like, I'm basically like the boomer in all these with these college kids Discord server and stuff. Like, yeah, I'm 45. Most of them like just graduated college or like 3 or 4 years out. So, it's allowed me to become a sports fan again. And it's something that being in the media for so many years, you kind of lose. Like, you can't go, it's hard to go to a sporting event. Like you were saying earlier, like, do I go, I pay attention to the PA announcer versus like, watching the game. I'm looking at the facilities like, oh, well, we don't have this. We could do this. Oh, we're better than this. It's like, so with college hockey, it's just like, I have something to follow that I'm still learning about. Like, I am definitely not the stats guy on this. Like I've piddled around with some ideas like, oh, maybe I can do this. Like, no, I don't need to be that guy. I do that for wrestling. I don't need to do it in hockey. I can enjoy hockey because when I'm done with work, I'm done with work. I go home from a wrestling event. I have to put a newsletter together. Mm-hmm. I have to look at the rankings. I have to compile the scores. I have to send a ballot out to the coaches on Monday. Like,
you have to vote for
wrestling.
Brown.
Never stops for me. Hockey stops and starts, and I love it because it also, doing hockey it made me uncomfortable because I'm still uncomfortable. And I'm, again, doing the Olympics is a pressure cooker, but I'm comfortable. I've done wrestling doesn't scare me. Hockey still scares me because I'm still learning about it, and I love that.
So that's how you got the job.
That's yeah. So it all ties together. It's like, again, sure. I love it. I love it. And I will, it's to the point of my kid. Here's another thing too, is my kids, they're 12 and 8, they're girls, and they don't like wrestling. It's just not in their deal. My wife's like, I don't mind it, but like, so now Lucy, my oldest, is a Harry Potter nut, and she starts reading the roster like, okay, Dad, and she's memorized the Pokemon book too. So like, she knows the evolutions from whatever to this to Pikachu to whatever to Charge, whatever their evolutions are to.
You just
and she sees the roster and she's great.
Mix electric and fire like that,
whatever.
Jason, what are you doing?
I knew there were two different types. Okay, one was a fire type and one was a what? I don't know. Okay, it's not like I'm throwing a Vaporeon in there for you. Okay, so
evolution
Lucy
from
sees
Eevee.
the roster and sees Crookshank Cat from Harry Potter, and immediately becomes her favorite player. So then I can, with the ticket, I get the tickets with the deal here is my wife and kids can come to the game and not be bored off their asses. Sure. Because wrestling, we are both niche sports, but like hockey is kind of easier to follow when you don't know anything about hockey. Puck goes in the net, point goes on the board. Easy. pass, score.
Yeah, that's the thing with wrestling is like just when you're
such
watching,
a nuance.
And like all of a sudden a ref would raise his hand, and you don't know if that's good or bad, and he's got two different sleeves on. It's like well, I don't know what that is, and it's like it's not the wrestling that I'm used to. I'm used to the steel chairs. I'm used to the cages.
I got plenty of that too. I grew up with a lot of that. I mean, I went to the first 2 World War IIIs from WCW in Norfolk Scope. Yeah, I was NWA Mid-Atlantic territory stuff. So, but the girls can go to the game. They can get their Jupiter Moon ice cream.
So you're used to the woos then, because was that Ric Flair's territory?
Am I used to the woos? Yeah, I'm used to the woos. But and another story about that. But it's again to my kids can go to the games. Like I'll put hockey games on the big screen. And I'll have wrestling up on my iPad or something. My daughter's like, "Hey, Dad," I'll have wrestling on. I think it was like a Pitt Maryland match, top 20 matchup. She's like, "Hey, Dad, is there a hockey game you can put on?" So like, and she got Crookshank's autograph last week, and then saw him at Chipotle, which was like a double bonus. So
the best place to eat at St. Cloud.
Yeah, apparently, Crookshank listens to the Schlossman's podcast. But again, it's like the kids I can take the family, and I got in-laws that live in Avon right down the road. So it's like, it's
nice.
a chance for my sister to come see her sister, and they've kids, and then like my niece and nephews have both used the tickets. I got friends in town that I knew through wrestling that use tickets when my family can't use them. But it's nice is like, and then Lucy, when they're on the road, she's like, we'll watch the game. She's invested in the game. Like when the Mankato game, the Gopher game 2 years ago, when the season ended, she was pissed. Like, here's my then 10-year-old daughter just pissed that the season was over. And I'm like, yes. Wow. So it's given me and my older daughter, I'm not into the Pokemon or the Harry Potter, but it's given me another connection with her. I mean, the pro camp was in town last week. We went up and watched some scrimmage and, hey, do you want to come up? And she's like, yes. And I got to bring her down in the box where I usually get to sit. And then, there's Crookshank, and then there's, okay, what number's this? And, the practice jerseys didn't have numbers on them. I'm got the roster pulled up. She's like, who's that? I go, I don't know. I can't see the number. Okay, that's Sahlquist. There's, I can see, certain, it's hard to kind of notice players by face when they're wearing the cages the whole time. So, but yeah, my daughters love it. My wife loves it. It's an easier game to follow for kids. And again, they like the ice cream. They like Jupiter Moon, who I'm still looking to get my cone between periods, but what that is too. Plus also
we'll deliver it for you.
Yeah. Well, the staff also gives me a lot of wiggle room on the goofy factor, but I get the dad jokes like the dance camps and stuff. Like I get to make fun of the crowd when they're doing goofy stuff. So they've given me a lot of flexibility there, and I enjoy that. Again, I enjoy everything about going to the Herb. Everything. Even the drive. Even though I've been fortunate enough to where the last 2 years I haven't had a whole lot of weather, although construction on 94 is going to get pretty bad this year from what I hear. So I've got a couple ways.
I don't understand. Like, it just feels like for the last 2 decades, Monticello has been under construction, and I just don't understand it. Like, what are you still working on in that stretch of road? And
dude, I see your Monticello and I raise you Hampton, Virginia, because the joke was like, there's a stretch of I-64 that runs between Williamsburg and Norfolk. And I grew up there. I left there in 2005. I think the joke is that 64 has been under construction since 1776. So I don't know when they founded Jamestown, 64 was under construction.
It's like, oh, we gotta fix up this stretch right here. We
don't have I got 10. Yet. I got 10 to fall back on, but 10's not always the fastest.
You got those lights, yeah. That's always.
What else you want to know?
Well, just speaking, you talked about the red-black scrimmage. Were you able to decipher some of the players? Was it? Were there some of the rookies there? Did anybody catch your eye, or was anything Like, how was it? Was it open to the public? I guess I didn't hear anything about it.
This was the pro camp, the Red Blacks later this month. But
gotcha.
so they bring the alumni in. They got the golf outing, the alumni golf outing and such. So the pros that are in, they basically did a scrimmage with some of the guys. Spencer Meyer was there, Micah Miller, Crookshank. I mean, so they had a bunch of the alumni there. They're skating. Couple, some players were in, some players were out, and it was just kind of like a real informal for an hour in the morning, like 10 to 11:15 or something like that. So, again, one of the Husky Hockey Facebook groups, it said, "Yeah, we're all going to go on Wednesday," and I'm like, "Well, that works. I'll go up." And because I just played golf on Friday, and I went over to the hockey one first because I sponsored a hole for hockey, and I played in wrestling, so I made sure I was making sure both programs. And got their money's worth out of me.
Sure.
So, I picked up my swag this year. Was one of the things can't see it for those of you listening because you don't do a video show, but there's the hat that they got for playing in there. So it's the
kind of looks like a baseball hat.
I don't know any baseball hats that say CCM on them.
Well, other than the CCN. Yeah, but
I mean it's kind of truckerish, but it's got the Road St. Cloud script on it. The road jerseys.
Yeah, it's nice.
I like,
as opposed to the skating Husky one, which I wear this hat, the gray one, not as cool as the black one, which I didn't get because I wasn't with the program yet, but I got that one. I wear that one probably more than any hat I own. So it's kind of hard.
I want to buy that hat. Like the fact that they don't sell that hat. I mean, we've talked about that before.
Oh, I know. I think honestly, I think it's more of a CCM. I can't speak for the school on this clarification, but I just know that from what I've heard and from people that I know that work in hockey other places, because I do have friends that work in hockey that aren't at St. Cloud, is that it's CCM is always so slammed with everything that their things are just never like early. So when you get an idea for something, well, you're going to have to wait a year.
You got to get to Fabletics.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. That K1's better than that. So
that's true.
Could you imagine what those jerseys would be like?
Weren't the jerseys like 3 weeks late last year?
Remember that? They were not on time from what I understand. I can't, again, not speaking from a position of authority, but I understand they were not on time.
It's not good.
So,
but anyway,
okay,
yeah.
So that was the pro camp that was there then. Okay.
Yeah, it was the pro camp, and the scrimmage would be the 30th. So, but as far as your question, it's kind of hard. I was really more or less kind of hanging out with my daughter, and then we moved to the other side and actually ended up sitting next to Tinner, who's got a lot more game-worn jerseys than I do. I have one.
He's got like 6 or 7, right?
Yeah, well, what's funny is I got Crookshank, and
Did he buy it from you?
Well, what's interesting is so Spencer and Crookshank come into the Chipotle, and Lucy sees them right away. And Spencer Meyer might be the nicest hockey player I've ever met in my life. Like, no matter when I see him, he stops, says hello. Like, and again, say it's 7 times. He said hello 7 times. Those are the only 7 conversations I've ever had with him in my life, and they're never more than like 2 minutes. It's not like we go back. It's not like we've had bonding moments. He's just a nice guy. So he comes over and he's chatting, and then Grant comes over, and I was saying, it's like, you know what I had to do to get that jersey? I mean, it was kind of hard to get that game worn because I think his red one went pretty big, and then I found a way to get the white one. He goes, no, I bought the red. I have the red and the black one. I have and then I have the white one. So he has 2 of the 3. So yeah, that was, and what was kind of cool is when he signed it, they were in their workout room working out, and I think one of the rookies went in and saw that we had the jersey out, and he came out, it's like, hey, signed it, and then Lucy beat him at rock, paper, scissors. So that made her day too. And then we went to Val's. So that was a highlight hockey day for me and my daughter. Yeah. Daughter loved the fries and had the dreamsicle shake.
Oh, I love the dreamsicle.
I went with the double cheese. I went with the double cheeseburger with bacon. We were good to go.
Did you get the fries?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Always the small though. That's because
small's enough.
Dude, I'm like by the time I get to, we took 10 on the way back because there was 94 was a parking lot on the way there. So
I think 10's got so much construction going on right now.
Yeah, but it wasn't bad. I think we were about to Clearwater, and I'm just like, oh, it's so salty. Yeah. But yeah, I can make sure if there's ever like the double headers where wrestling's on we have a couple of those where wrestling goes first at like 2:00, and then I got 2 hours between. I'll go to Val's and then just kind of putts around. And then I like taking my daughter when we have a double header where I know my wife and kids are coming, I'll take Lucy up early, or maybe both the girls up early. We'll watch the women's game, and then like Abby will get there, and then they'll go get something to eat, and then I'll go do my pregame ritual. So that's kind of how that works.
True.
And because I'm trying to get the girls to watch more women's hockey too. Just like, they're girls. I want them to have, if they're into sports, I want to also see some, positive women's athletes and role models and stuff like that. And, and plus to learn the game of hockey, not, the herb sounds better when there's people in it. So that also goes for women's hockey. So I've tried to follow them as much as I can. Again, following wrestling, all the divisions, men and women wrestling there. It's like, I have a limited amount of time, but I'm trying to make sure I watch at least the women's games when they're on. If there's a game beforehand, I'll try to get there a little early to watch them. So do my best to try to keep up with the women's program as well. But I'll make sure that if they're on and we're not playing yet, I'll have them on the screen so we all watch them at home. So it's one of those things where you get to the herb to watch you get access to watch the game up close, so they can learn it. And because our seats are up in 211 normally, so we're kind of away from the puck range, and right on the edge, so it's easier to get in and get out. So
I went to a few women's games with the whole family, and we were able to sit like right behind the goal, and what is that section, like 120 or something like that, kind of right there, and having the kids able to run around a little bit more. But I've got a daughter, so I'm trying to get her to watch, like you said, positive role models in the female sports and whatnot. So it's been fun, and I guess we can kind of use that as a segue too, to talk. We haven't talked about the women's team yet, and here we are pressing over about 2 hours. So I want to make sure that we talk about the assistant coaches as they have been announced. One, a very familiar name with Nora Ratty, who was a very incredible, accomplished goaltender in the WCHA, and Emily Ock, who had a career at Augsburg, who I have heard also has a really good wrestling program. Emily has been with the SCSU video coordinator on women's hockey operations for the last couple of years. So she got elevated in that position. So two new names that are on the bench there in the women's team.
Yeah, Roddy was the goalie for the undefeated team for the Gophers, if I'm not mistaken, about 10 years ago or so. Had some Olympic success, if I'm correct as well. I mean, name goes a long way. I think it's a good get. I'm not sure what her capacity is as assistant coach, if she's going to be focusing on goaltending or to be a larger role beyond that. I mean, we still have Janelle Sergey is the main assistant there under Adulski. She's been there for 10 plus years over a couple of different regimes. Always good to see her back, but it's good to see some fresh blood behind the bench as well. Kind of like what the men's team has done with Ock, as you mentioned, fairly young. I mean, a couple years out of college herself. It's similar to like Kuster or Oliver before him on the men's side, recent grads coming back as an assistant. I think that's a good move because it's gives you some good connectivity between the locker room, not too far away age-wise from the majority of the roster. So I think two good hires there, and excited to see what they can do for the women's team. And we had mentioned men's captains. I wanted to have also women's captains to go over, but doing some digging, I don't believe that they have been announced yet. Like I said, we got 16 days till puck drop. So I would assume that that's going to be pretty close here, that we're going to be here about that. I was even just digging in like what the captains were last year, mentioning that the large number of them, 6 or 7, Lind being the C wearer last year. She's obviously graduated. Most of, Himlarova was assistant. She's gone. I would assume Gentry's going to be, if I'm going to pick, kind of like Litke. See, I did it again. Gentry being an assistant captain last year, and she's the oldest, of the group that also wore letters last year. So I'd assume she's going to wear the C this year. Again, just a complete guess. Ross and Wolf, also from the defensive corps, they wore assistant letters last year. As you mentioned, Wolf as a senior listed, maybe still a junior if there was like a redshirt possibility. Ross, definitely a fourth-year player, senior. So I'd assume they're wearing letters as well, but can only speculate at this point. We'll have more information, I'm sure, the next show on that. But
we'll probably find out when the puck drops against Lindenwood.
I mean, it was when I was searching for it, they did announce the captains just prior to the season last year. So I would assume there was going to be some press release very shortly. But as you mentioned, time's a ticking. Wish that we would have that information. But September 21st is said at Lindenwood. And you had mentioned, how are we going to watch that game? And one thing we can discuss. So the short answer there is I think Flow Sports is your friend. And I thought that that we had
Flow had Lindenwood last year. So Lindenwood women last year.
Last year would have been, I'm not sure about that. They're definitely going to be on Flow this year because for last year, I don't think because he had the merger.
Well, Lindenwood was, we were at Lindenwood 2 years ago. The women were. So would they have been? They would have been our place last year, right?
No, they played them at the Sacred Heart Icebreaker.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay,
because
I remember watching the women beat Lindenwood at Maryland Heights on Flow Hockey 2 years ago. That would have been like the first year of like fully immersing myself into St. Cloud sports. So I distinctly remember that because I thought the perk was I've got a Flow Wrestling subscription, obviously. But if you've got a Flow Sports subscription, you get if I got a wrestling one, well, then guess what? I can watch Flow Hockey. So I actually am a beneficiary of having two sports on the Flow platform. So with the CCHA not there anymore, that's another story.
Yeah, so that ties into that. We got word that the CCHA, which split off from Flow or didn't re-up their deal with Flow for this coming year, instead of going with Midco for their streaming service. And we were excited, Weldie and I, because we looked at this Midco streaming package, $10 a month. Like, hey, we're done with this $30 a month for Flow, which is really pushing it in terms of affordability for 1 month. And what was it, 2 games last year in that 1 month for Flow Sports? There's been some years where it's just 1 game. It was a couple years ago when they went up to Bemidji in that month of December. That was the only game that month that they would have played a CCHA team, St. Cloud. So it's like you're paying $30 essentially to see 1 game on streaming. Kind of pushes it, but so we're thinking maybe we're getting a better deal now that CCHA is pursuing a deal with Midco. But that was announced a week or so ago. Yeah, well, I mean, there's separate tiers. Like there is a tier that is $10 a month. But the tier that gets you the CCHA hockey games is $25 a month. And it's only CCHA, which, as Jason mentioned, Flow, which had CCHA in years past, also had Atlantic hockey games. Now they
also had minor league.
And Alaska Fairbanks.
And
USHL, they had some of the independents.
They did not have the Alaska Anchorage commercials, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, Anchorage is on YouTube. Although Fairbanks has the guy doing the broadcast remotely from Michigan.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Their play-by-play guy is not in Fairbanks.
That makes some sense.
The color guy is.
So they got a color guy in the building, and then
that's some engineering there.
Yeah.
And so with the Atlantic,
does Rode sponsor that? Rode or Elgato? They got
Don't know.
That's quite the hookup that they must have. Can they get the referee mics working?
I don't know, but if you email that guy, tell him where you're listening from. They will say your name.
Oh, there we go.
I'm totally that guy too. I will totally like I mentioned earlier that like my buddy was broadcasting the Oklahoma State South Dakota State games. Like I'll if he's kind of like, hey man, great call. Or sometimes like the Big Tent Network or somebody's like Shane Sparks will be doing it and be like, and then there's the Jason Bryant name drop. I'm like, So
I got it.
I'm totally that guy. I will be that guy. But, oh, he's saying names. Yeah, go. And Jason Bryant from New Brighton, Minnesota says, "Go Huskies!" Listening and watching the Alaska Test here on KBSE and on Flow Hockey. You know, it's like so.
Well, you have a chance to do that because Flow Sports seems to be the only option to get the Lindenwood games for St. Cloud. It's because of that. That's a bit of a complication, a wrinkle of this tale as well, because Atlantic Hockey Association, which was the men's only league, College Hockey America, the women's only league, which there's some overlap between those two leagues, they officially merged over the summer. Now I had bungled this a couple of shows ago. The official name now is Atlantic Hockey America. And I mentioned if you're going to combine those two names, why are you sticking with Atlantic, a conference that has on the men's side Air Force, not even in this neighboring time zone of the Atlantic Ocean, and then with the women's side you got Lindenwood, and they're in Missouri. It feels like Atlantic is the one word you would want to scrap from those two conference names.
I mean, that's one where you could just go American, that way you're officially the catch-all, but they don't like being that. But when I lived in Colorado Springs, I'd go to some Air Force dual meets, and then, where the Clune Arena, where they're wrestling is just across the hall is the ice arena. I remember walking into their ice, oh, there's the hockey rink. And I'm looking and I'm reading the banners and I'm like, hey, Army, American International, well, that's they're in Massachusetts. What the heck is a Bentley? And I'm like, I was like, hold it. What? Who are these? Why is Air Force in this conference? That was my first introduction to Atlantic hockey, was reading the banners at Air Force's ice arena when I was there watching a wrestling duel.
Yeah. Somehow they're in the Atlantic, and the women's side, so the CHA is no longer. It's going to be the Atlantic Hockey Association. And what was weird was the CHA, it's got Penn State, Syracuse, Lindenwood.
And they also let's see, is that this year they've got the Fighting Blue Hens, or is that next year?
That's next year. Delaware is going to be coming in. It's just a 5-team league. Robert Morris and Sacred Heart, I believe. I might be wrong on that. Sacred Heart might be in the Nuha, but in any case, that 5-team, because I remember the Mercyhurst series last year was not on Flow. If I'm remembering correctly, I maybe it was the Sacred Heart, because I know that definitely was a free stream.
The Icebreaker was on Sacred Heart's.
Yeah, it was a free,
their own. Yeah,
free.
I do think the Mercyhurst series was on Flow.
I think you're right, actually.
Yeah, but trying to pull up the Icebreaker was like, what the heck? Oh, SacredHeartPioneers.com. I found it, but.
So, yeah, it was weird. Maybe Syracuse might not be on there. Penn State's definitely not a part of that, because their women's games are streamed through the Big Ten network, same as the Huskies are. So it was kind of a weird mishmash between which of those women's teams' games were on Flow, which weren't. Well, now those CHA games are going to be all absorbed. Now they're the Atlantic Hockey America Conference. And so those will be on Flow Sports. So instead of last year's setup, which we would have paid 1 month of Flow Sports, we would have gotten both Lindenwood games, the St. Thomas Road game for the men, and the Bemidji one game off for the men in October. We'd be able to get 4 games for $30, which every game you add to that makes it a per game better deal. But now, if you're going to play it not in an illegal way, you're going to do 1 month of Flow for $30 to get those 2 Lindenwood games for the women, and then you're going to do $25 to get the 2 games at St. Thomas and at Bemidji. So I would rather stuck with Flow.
Meaning literally the 2 games, since they're home and home. So it's not like
just the
series.
2, yeah, the road games.
2 games.
Yes, those 2 road games at
Which,
St. Thomas and
as I said, how much I like home and home series early in the podcast. Now reminding of the $25 to watch the game. Maybe I don't anymore. Maybe I could just hit up Jason for his extra ticket. Maybe that's what I do for. But then I don't get
for St. Thomas. That can be arranged
there. But now then I'm just paying $25 for 1 game instead of 2. Now I don't get my money's worth that end of it.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I bought 2 tickets for $30 total today.
Those were the days.
For that Linwood series, I'm thinking of just driving there. That might be cheaper than paying for Flow Sports. No, it's a little bit of.
Well, it's weird, and the thing is like Flow, because I pay for a year. I pay $150 right off the bat, but that's also, I get all the wrestling stuff, but also, for me being 2 sports on there, it's like, okay, it makes sense to go the $150 right off the bat, and then okay, but I it's like I'm watching. Again, being a fan, I'll get home like before, if we're on the road, I'm watching Atlantic hockey games before the good ESPN Plus streams come up. I'm watching Atlantic before Hockey East starts. So, and then then the NCHC, and then it's Alaska. That's like the road weekends when we're okay. Then Erickson in the ear, typically Erickson in the ear, and then NCHC TV like as synced up as I can get, and then everything else is on the other screen. So, but yeah, the Flow thing from a 1-month deal, yeah, that's definitely tough. That's where if you really like hockey and you like junior hockey, you've got a lot there. But if you're only a college hockey guy, it's not really the best bang for buck.
Yeah, and like you said, like some AHL games I think are on there. USHL.
Oh yeah,
games.
the AHL's on there this year. The ECHL and the AHL are both on there. So,
USHL too. I know they were in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, and a bunch of the Canadian junior leagues too.
Right. So I mean, if that's
some weird. There's some the Null's not on there. I don't think.
I don't think so.
But the US, what's that? The USP, the third tier, the one that's got Premier in it, the one where my buddy's kids like in their farm team, like the USPHL or something like that, where it's another junior league. They're on there too, because I can actually watch the what are they, the Hampton Roads Whalers back in Virginia, the junior team that's down there, state, not Iron Range. Can watch some of their games on Flow. So there is a lot of hockey on Flow, but again, it's again pulling the streams from, it might be really good production, and then it might be like I think I saw some game from like like Moose Scrotum Yellow Yukon territory or something, wherever the heck they had those some of those junior teams. So can I say that?
Yeah, well, it's a medical
we'll
term.
Let it slide.
Yeah, we'll let it slide. We're good. So
a little disappointing. I mean, whenever you get separate streaming services, it's just another one to have to track down, another one that you got to remember to cancel it.
Yeah, and you guys, and hockey's not alone. We've been dealing with it. Niche sport and wrestling's been dealing with it. Like to watch, you got the Big Ten Network, ESPN Plus, Flow, and then you've got Rockfin, which is another. It's like the guy who started Flow got into a big lawsuit with his brother, and then went and started another company to compete with Flow in certain streaming things. So we've got a ton of them in wrestling too. So hockey is not alone in the hockey fans' plight of all these streaming services. Well, I'm curious what Midco is going to put out, because if there are more boots on the ground, because all Flow would just we know this is not a disparagement on them. It's just they take the stream that was produced by the schools.
Yeah.
Or that's what they do. They're pitching it out there, and they're giving the schools back money and things of that nature. It's just, kind of a rights deal. So I don't think Midco is going to be that different in that regard, but obviously it's a company that folks in the Midwest are really, really familiar with. We don't get a whole lot of Midco stuff here in the cities, but you get further out west and western part of the state and in the Dakotas, it's, that's the standard. So, and they have really good production. I hate to say it, but that school up in Grand Forks has really good production for their games. Augustana has really good production for their game. So if we get better production, sometimes maybe the value for the dollar will meet the price.
Yeah, and whenever someone complains about, this is another streaming service that I've got to deal with for another month. I mean, I don't know what it was like in the wrestling landscape, but 10 years ago, I mean, we have literally every game. If you have the money's no object. You can literally purchase every streaming package and watch every college hockey game that you desire, men's or women's. 10 years ago, that was not the case. 10 years ago, ideally, you'd go through each individual school. You think that 5 conferences is annoying enough. Try to go through. I got to go to the UND page to get theirs and Miami's. I'm still getting emails from Miami from using their streams 10 years ago. So, I mean, it's a lot. I don't know if the college wrestling landscape, if like when you can remember, since when have you been so spoiled? I guess.
Well, it's funny because back when I used to do a national schedule for matches that were streamed, and I would go through, and back then when college sport, when all the websites were through CBS, and they were like CSTV.fansonly. Whatever, not OnlyFans, but fans only. It was like the basically all the sites, which are sidearm sites now, basically. But back then, 15 years ago, they had this. I found this deal. It was called ULive. It was all the websites, schools that were on this the CBS sports package had it was like $119 a year, and I'm like, wait, this is all the schools, and it was not really advertised. I'm like, oh, I'm signing up for that. And I got about 50 schools for all their sports, and it was like a bunch of them had wrestling. So yeah, I remember like, oh yeah, this one's being streamed on Live Sports Video. This one's being streamed on, oh, this one will be on TV on tape delay a week from now on CSTV. We share the same struggles for the terrestrial TV time. Thankfully, Big Ten Network has been great for both wrestling and hockey. I mean, it's been and for also women's volleyball too.
That is a hot take. Talking to a hockey crowd, though.
All right, I know the Big Ten. I know the WCHA people hate the Big Ten thing.
Oh, yeah.
From a viewership standpoint, how many we get all those games, and now we by process of the WCHA tying into it, we get our games on Big Ten Plus, which on the women's side again, that's pretty good for exposure too.
And
so
as I mentioned, Penn State women, which they're not part of the WCHA or the Big Ten, and Boise State women's hockey also on Big Ten Plus. So I mean, it's the ripple effect is huge. It's a bit of ours. If you're a fan, you should get that reference.
Oh, I get the bit. Just the second time I've had a Boise State reference on a podcast today, because the College Football Inquirer mentioned LeGarrette Blount's KO of the Boise State football player at the bowl game when Oregon played Boise State a couple years ago.
Well, that's nothing compared to Maple O'Shaughnessy's 4-goal game against Mercyhurst last year. So it was big stuff, and I only could see it on Big Ten Plus.
Did they play Plainfield Teachers?
Yes, in fact they did. Yes,
that was
Yes, I think they transferred them from Wartburg. I think.
Don't believe Wartburg's got hockey.
Yes,
I had to look up, by the way, earlier the show. I had never heard of Wartburg, Waverly, Iowa.
Yep.
You knew that, Weldie?
They actually really push hard for me for some reason to go to college there.
Really?
For music, for playing trumpet. Yep.
No kidding.
Don't know why. I wasn't even that good. I don't understand. But I had so many.
You turned down Wartburg.
I did.
State.
And also
you turned down Joe's Nighthawk, like the best Wartburg sports bar there is.
And I also,
if you could believe this, again,
I don't know.
Bar?
I don't know that to be a fact. I know what the best one is.
Lay it on me.
Joe's Nighthawk. I just said that's the best one.
All right.
Big wrestling guy.
Tell him Jason Bryant sent you.
Yeah. And
he might actually know who I am. That's a scary thing.
And also, for some reason, somehow, my senior year, I was recruited to go to the Concordia Symphony Orchestra's Christmas concert, and they were trying to push me to go to Concordia.
Concordia Moorhead, Concordia St. Paul, Concordia Wisconsin, or Concordia Montreal?
St. Paul. And I'm just like, I'm not going to trumpet. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't understand. I mean, like, I was fine, but like, there was no way I was going to actually play beyond high school, which I did actually play for the campus band a little bit at St. Cloud State, which is just literally a high school band because you practice like once a week. But
you mean the Husky sports band?
Husky Sports Band. I was I was the inaugural member. I was the one of the original class of the Husky Sports Band.
We had them at wrestling once last year, and it was awesome. It was great.
I don't know. I love a band at a college event. I think it adds so much more atmosphere and ambiance.
Well,
and
when the PA system, the sound system went out last year, they saved our asses. It's like, I couldn't say anything. There was no music being played. We're like our interns are like, band play, because the headsets worked, but like the arena sound system, I was like, I can't say anything.
It's okay. It's not like that was a big game or a big opponent or anything like that, right?
Well, I mean, that school in Grand Forks scored during that time, so I didn't have to say their name at all, which was fine.
I was going to make a comment about who made that turnover, but I will just go ahead and go right past it because I'm pretty sure that was Peart's cough up Jackson Blake. Anyway,
I don't remember that. I remember goals. Score.
Yep, there we go. That was a fun game to go to at any rate. But anyway,
well, that was like that first UND game last year. Like my first year when like I was like, some of the fans are like, okay, I'm starting to follow accounts like you guys and other Husky fans and like starting to follow and like, hey, I can't remember who said it. It was like, any advice? And they're like, stay away from UND Twitter. And I'm like, okay. And I've stayed away. They, however, again, who the heck knows who I am in the hockey space? Literally, and I've since shaved my head. I'm 45 years old. I'm like, you know what? I have this fat banker thing going on. I'm like, you know what? I'm it's done. I saw some pictures from me at an event. I'm like, I'm just getting rid of it.
I tried to talk my wife into letting me do it, and she just won't let me do it.
I don't. I had the solar panel, and then it was like, so I was like, you know what? But it was like, because I'm wearing a headset down there, and everybody in that side can see that I'm losing it there. And then this one UND fan in my DMs on Twitter before Elon bought it, so you could still just DM people randomly that didn't follow you. And it's like, hey, see, you've lost your hair there, and it looks like you're gaining it back there. What are you doing? What's your secret to growing it back? I'm like, who the heck? Who? Like the dog pound DMing me between, at the end of a period to tell me I forgot the 1 minute thing. Okay, except like, who knows who the heck the new PA guy is? Like I was not prolific on my Husky fandom at the time. Yeah. So anyway, so that was the experience. That's just proof. I'll watch Caleb spar with him. That's funny. But I'll stay out of it. I will people watch on the Twitter fights.
So, I forgot to mention a breakout star of the Dump and Change podcast, and Dump and Change show, which I am a fan of with Avery Myers and JoJo. Devin Millwater, who was the comic relief of a lot of the episodes, transferred and has a home at Minnesota Duluth. So now I hate her. So now I hope she is not funny anymore.
Okay, so I can't say this. What's the opinion on Joe Molinar? He's now a
traitor.
I'm okay with it because I don't know, 5th year. It's I don't know.
Yeah, now I say this. I might have you probably know this. I've gotten to call 2 Husky hat tricks in 2 years. Who are they?
Well, I think you mentioned
Okabe.
Molinar, and then Okabe.
Yeah, there we go. It wasn't a really hard setup, but I just remember like after the first season, like one of these 2 things is not like the other. It was just, and Muller had that streak where he scored like 8 goals in like 10 games or something like that. He was on fire that first stretch.
And then nothing else other than that.
Molinar, he because one of those goals I believe was nominated for Herbie. For goal of
I thought
the
it
year.
was the
Herbie.
I voted
I
for the
am
Herbie.
unfamiliar with these awards. No.
Yeah, we got to be on the lookout for the Lowell Sun Sports Foot and Mouth Award because we got a new a new year of coaches and ADs.
Believe too that,
and also radio guys are also, definitely. I think because I don't know, what was the Duluth guy had a pretty cringe one last year. It was like, ooh, back away from that one.
What, Siski?
I imagine it was Siski.
Yeah, might have been Siski. I don't know. Again, I don't want to disparage people I don't know. So
he's a peach. I think that Okabe,
he is a polarizing figure. I will say that
the Okabe hat trick in that game, I think that was another Herbie nominee from the first year, that the inaugural Herbies. And we've got a guest on, and he mentioned wanting to know about history. I've got two. We're just going to do these quickly, but some random box scores. It wouldn't be a summer pod without some random box scores. I want to do one that
random box score alert.
These aren't terribly random because you've brought these up, but Jason, I want to do one from his era, and he's mentioned that Okabe hat trick game, 6-3 win, December 3rd of 22. You remember this game, and you can go back in our podcast feed and go back to our reaction show that the weekend after about this show. There's the first home sweep of North Dakota in 20 years, something like that. For years, it was always splits against the dreaded Green. This one, coming off the 7-2 win on Friday, and then North Dakota comes out 3-0 lead for them.
Oh yeah.
Early in the second period, do you remember that first goal for the Huskies that opened the floodgates? A fluky goal from a defenseman. Do you remember who scored it? Just his second of the year.
Okay, December. Fluky goal.
I think it was like right at the blue line, kind of like just a harmless looking dump in, and then it somehow kicks in.
Was it Bushy?
It was Brendan Bushy.
Because he had the long ranger at CC.
That's right. Yeah, his second of 3 goals that year, and all 3 of them were highlight reel goals.
I don't know. Rogers had that highlight reel goal last year too. Just throwing his stick at the puck. Oh, there it is. It's in.
Yeah, those are they count just the same.
I got it first try.
That's really impressive.
Good. See, that's good. You're playing the game.
You did give me enough context to maybe help me process by the process of elimination.
So that to make it 3-1, 2 minutes into the second, and then comes the Okabe show with
because it was a natural hat trick
with a period intermission in between.
Right.
But he gets the first goal about 2 minutes left in the second to make 3-2. And then
it was like the first shift or the minute in, right?
Yeah. 55 seconds in from Mietnin, Vidi. Werner wasn't there yet. So this is Vidi assisting on Okabe. And then 7 minutes into the third, he gets the power play goal to go ahead 4-3 from Litke and Peart. And let's see, we got Peart with the empty netter. Who gets the other goal? He would have been Herbie nominee for Player of the Year last year. Didn't win it, but Herbie nominee.
So 22-23?
Correct.
What was it? Was it Crookshank?
No, it would have been the Herbie nominee from this past year.
Oh.
So not he was not a Herbie nominee in 22-23, but he was a Herbie nominee for Player of the Year in 23-24. Alliterative name.
Yep. Alliterative name.
Canadian.
Doesn't really help. Got a lot of Canadians on. Let's see. Alliterative name. I gotta remember the lines.
It was from Anhorn and Micah Miller. The 2 assists.
Anhorn, Miller, alliterative name, on the squad this year. Scored the goal against UND last year.
He is not on the current roster.
From Camrose,
Kyler Kupka.
Alberta.
Kyler Kupka.
Yep.
Another one of my favorite names to say.
And Kupka, not Kupka, because I think we've said Kupka a fair amount on the show. But
yeah, but what's tricky is with their nicknames is like they I think they called him Cuppy or something. I don't know. But yeah, like the long vowel like coo. Yeah, those are the ones that I freaking love. So
yeah, and
I'm not gonna lie though, Mietnin kind of tough to get out of there. Easily flowing.
Kind of tough to pop that one.
Yeah. And it got to the point when they scored, when they went to the same line and they scored, your first time through, number 19, Werner Miettinen, Vitti on assist, Vitti Miettinen on assist from so-and-so and so-and-so. And then I just go Werner from Vitti and Peart. I wouldn't say the Miettinen thing twice. I just say their first names on second reference. Do the professional call and then Werner from Vitti and Peart at 17:22 and then go Huskies and then wait for the crowd.
Yeah, 5,000 plus in the building this game. That would have been a good game for you to announce. A good crowd. Nice atmosphere. Crookshank 15 out of 18 in the faceoff dot in that game.
Ooh.
Pretty good. And I was curious. You had me going down a rabbit hole. I did need to fact check it. You were correct. 9-4 Gophers. Saturday, October 30th, 2010. I mentioned this is the depths of the Lucia years. Jacob Cepas. A 4-point game in this game. Goal and 3 assists. It was, as you said, 9-4. There's 4 points for Cepas, not the top scorer for the Gophers that game, because Nate Condon had a 5-point game, 2 goals and 3 assists. But this was the year that the Gophers got swept to Anchorage to end the year. And
was Jake Parento in that?
He was not.
Okay.
Is that a CC guy? Because
no, it's a Gopher. That's the aforementioned Gopher that former Gopher that lives in my neighborhood.
Really? Okay. He was not.
It was roommates with my wrestling buddies, oddly. So the weird wrestling hockey crossover is everywhere.
Eric Halla on this team. Nate Schmidt, he's still in the NHL. Ryland Schwartz, the Schwartz boys for CC. The CC had a decent year. This is the year that they made the tournament, upset Boston College. Mentioned that because it was in St. Louis the last time that Missouri had a regional prior to this year. But weekend before, St. Cloud beat them 5-2 and lost 2-1 at Mariucci to the Gophers. But that 5-2 game, 5-0 lead after 2 periods. The Gophers were not that good that year. But you were correct. You nailed the score. And
14 years later, the first college hockey game I ever went to. Yeah.
Almost to the day. Yeah.
Did you say we split with them?
Yes.
What were the scores of those games?
5-2 on Friday. This is both at Mariucci, mentioning like they used to do home and homes. It was the only series they played that year. And it was both games at Mariucci. And right away at the beginning of the year in October. A Friday-Sunday series.
Did we?
So I bet the Gopher football team was at home that weekend.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think the Gopher football.
But as the Friday game,
were we up big?
It was 5. It was 5 rip.
5 rip, right?
After 2, yeah. And then the Gophers with 2 goals. 15-8 shot advantage in the third for the Gophers, but it was a domination for the Huskies. But then they win 2-1. Gophers win 2-1 on Sunday. Cepas with a goal there. I mean, he was Jay Baraball.
Baraball.
Lee got the win. Dan Dunn took the loss. It was about par for the course. So
unless it
was North Dakota. Yes. Ding.
So,
but yeah, I wanted to go run through.
I don't know why I remember that 5 rip, but I remember Garrett Rose shorthanded goal that game. I don't remember any other goal that game, but
he had the 4th goal. Brian Volpe with the first goal. If we were doing this, I don't know if I could have come up with that name if you gave me a thought.
This is me being completely lost about everything you're talking about right now.
The others here, I mean, you got Fessler, you got Mosey, Rowe, Dow.
Tony Mosey.
Again, we kind of mentioned this team a little bit because that 2009 draft that had the 7 draftees, a lot of them would have started this year. Guys like Dowd. And so this was kind of in the middle, is a combination of the guys like Rowe who had been around for a while, but then the newer guys that became like the first class of the NCHC teams. That 10-11 year was not a good year for the Huskies, a transition year in many ways, but you had a lot of talent, either graduating talent on the way out or talent that was going to mature into a Frozen Four team and whatnot. So interesting team.
So,
but we don't want to keep you too much longer. We've kept you long enough. I don't know if we that was all the topics that we had as far as, UMD's hired their women's coach, Laura Schuler, just throwing it out there for Dan Jacobson's sake, just to say that we covered it. And
there's the Dan Jacobson reference. I was waiting for it.
And Millwater.
Waiting for the Dan Jacobson reference.
He did submit a question. If I poured one out,
I don't know if we had any questions.
Died. So yeah, Game Informer released their last magazine, which was the pinnacle of video game journalism for many years, decades.
I thought that was always Nintendo Power.
No.
Wait, that was just me growing up.
Video game journalism was Game Informer. Nintendo Power was advertisement for Nintendo.
Cheat codes.
And cheat codes. Eric Zamora asked thoughts on the captains. Are you surprised at all, or would you have gone a different route? I obviously, like we said with Lidkey, that makes sense. A little bit surprised with Rossborough, and then obviously with I was just about to say Spalacy. No, Sahlquist. It's not a surprise.
Don't put that back in my head. Don't put that back in my head.
It's not a surprise since Larson really likes him. So that wasn't really a surprise.
Ports would have been the big surprise for me. I would not have thought Ports was going to be selected, but I keep this up to the players' discretion. I'm not in that locker room. It's dynamics that they are really in charge of, and yes, chemistry is a big part of it, and it can, like mention that 10-11 year with guys like Hep and Mosey not surviving that year based on discipline and off ice shenanigans. It certainly can derail a season if you have some drama in that clubhouse, but it's not something that I'm really going to say this is a gauge in one way or the other about how this team's going to perform on the ice this year. These are the guys that the team picked. All the power to them. Yeah. Sounds good to me.
We got John. John, how worried should we be that Colin Ralph is going to hurt his teammates before the season begins? I'm not too worried about that, but he looks to be a force on skates, so I'm really excited to see. I think just with him, and I'm really excited to see on the men's side, Gavin Thorson and like Thorson and Bernavec too, with the height differences between those, their style of plays being different. I'm really excited kind of for some of those dynamics, and those are kind of the big freshmen I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, and then Damon Gardner too. You mentioned the recruit for Brainerd, who the name I'm spacing on now, but as you mentioned, 6'4", 6'5", seeing a trend here of Larson bringing in some size, not only with this class but with future classes as well. It's I'm not complaining. I'll put it that way.
Do we have a over-under on majors committed by Lidkey on Lukey, or Lidkey on Lukey on Lukey on Lukey on Dr. Seuss eventually? If there's any Lidkey Lukey type of penalties committed on each other, by each other, or for each other, I think we should mark that down and have some kind of over. That could be one of our prop bets for the season.
Very well could.
So,
does Omaha still have their Lutkeys? Is that what you're telling us, Jason Bryant? They're pronounced Lutkey. I don't know if one or both of them are still there.
You're not going to make me go back through my pronunciation.
Nah,
pretty sure they were Ludkeys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the prop bet of all prop bets, is if Josh Litkey is involved in a major penalty on one of the Omaha Lutkeys.
Yep.
That would blow Jason Bryant's brain if you had to announce that. Does Omaha come into the Herb this year? Is that a possibility that you could?
Well, the thing is, if it'll be on the sheet in front of me, I won't screw it up at the game. I may screw it up on a podcast close to midnight.
You mean on a podcast at a random weird.
Now I'm going to the see. Now you got me curious. Roster.
Go Huskies woo. Expecting top 3 in the NCAA qualifying. Any reason to think I'm overselling or underselling? So we're going to have like a full predictions show.
Blood Key. It's right on his bio. Nice. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
There we
Sorry.
go.
Go Huskies woo. Who may or may not live close to me.
Ooh. Outed. Got doxxed.
No, not outed. I may or may not.
So top 3 in the NCHC. Any reason to think I'm overselling, underselling? I wouldn't say I'm worried about the defense, but that's just kind of one thing that a little bit concerning is defense and goaltending. That's a little bit of a question mark that we have. I feel we're going to have a full preview predictions podcast coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. But just a quick Reader's Digest prediction or kind of spot of where you're thinking. I think, top 3, I definitely see that happening. I think the top 4, maybe even 5 in the NCHC is going to be really close. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see where that all shakes up. Andrew, you got a thought?
I mean, I haven't really sat down and thought. I haven't gone through like this is my predicted standings yet. I'm still a week or so away until I actually get down to the nitty gritty and make a prediction. But I don't think it's out of line to answer his question. I think they were 3rd place last year. We're, I think, on the same page as we're really excited about this freshman class. There are definite question marks. The fact that I oversold them last year, picked them first, wasn't so far off on the standings, but the fact that they missed the tournament qualifies as a swing and a miss from my perspective. Because of that, I'm probably apt to undersell them in order to compensate for overselling them last year.
God, what a pessimist.
But that said, I just, again, not even looking, we've talked about Arizona State and Western, and Miami's likely not going to be as terrible as they were last year, which is hard to be worse than what they were last year. But just in terms of looking at the whole conference as a whole, just my impression right now, 3rd or 4th place is probably where I put them. But we'll see where officially I slot them in. But I think that's right there. I think within the margin of error.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see the freshmen that we have coming in and just see what kind of impact that they're going to make. So, and I think if they really step up, I think it's going to bode very well for the Cardinal and Black.
Yeah, excited.
So, and then he also asked if there was, aside from the KBSC dudes and Eric Zamora, who was your favorite guest? So now he can add Jason onto that list as well. So
yeah, I'd put Jake Baskin on that list too. Not forget about him.
That's right. So, but that's pretty much it. And since we're nestling up at 2 hours 40 some minutes here, I think that is about everything. Jason, unless you got one more thing.
Yes, I do have one more thing, and this goes out to everybody that goes to the Herb, and it's the one question I think I got the most after I took over for Chuck. And the question, I don't know. Do you guys know what the question would have possibly been? Let's do random box score, but with questions.
Random.
Are you gonna do
the woo?
The woo.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Well, no, I do not do the woo. That is not mine. That is Chuck's. However, that I believe is a program thing. So the story there is, I was like, how do I incorporate this? But it's not mine. So I've been wanting to tell this story probably since we started and we're getting here. We talk about burying the lead. So
we can edit. We can
edit. We'll put this up right at the beginning.
This is the bumper. Yeah. So
I'll talk to the producer, the editor, the.
Yeah. Okay. I get where that one's going. So I'm curious. I was curious how to do this. So I was like, you know what? Maybe if we could get the crowd to do it. Because again, I didn't know how Chuck set it up or did it. I actually didn't really know until I went to a women's game, because I know that Knuckles does it that way. He does it kind of the same way Chuck does, where he does the woo. And that's how he did it. Well, what I said, so the Dog Pound Twitter account, like I sent them a note. It's like, hey, I want to keep this thing involved somehow, but again, it's not mine. So my idea was to borrow off the Go Huskies woo thing. So I'll, after the goal, I'll say Go Huskies, and then I get the Dog Pound to yell, do the woo, and then eventually the rest of the arena would pick up on it. It took about 3 series for that to kind of be a thing, and then now I got the control room to put the woo graphic going across the big screen when we score. Granted, so it's something that I've wanted to make sure, and it gets loud with the woos now. And here's the thing: I don't have to say it because it's not mine, because it's distinctly Chuck's, but it's also distinctly part of the program. So that was one thing that we needed to keep it. We absolutely needed to keep it. And I think the way we came up with it, working with the Dog Pound, saying, and they liked the idea. So that was kind of the one thing that I was really sensitive about right away was, Chuck's beloved in the community, and, did it, 3 decades, and the woo was a thing. So it's not mine, but it's 1W 5 O's on the hashtag. I respect it. Victory drinks and all that stuff. So that's part of, to me, that's part of the gig. It's part of, like, you adopt that. So, and when I talked to the admins, I was like, hey, can we put a woo on the graphic? They're like, absolutely. It's a great idea. So to be able to one thing. So if you want to know where it is and you haven't been to the Herb for a while, when you hear me say Go Huskies after a goal, that's when you
should be like Pavlov's dog, ringing the bell.
Exactly. You should be salivating after the goal anyway. But you hear the Go Huskies, the pop, and then that's where you get the woo going. So, and I'm not gonna say it because, again, it's not mine, but it's the program's, and it was Chuck's. So that's how we've kept it involved. So that's one thing that I got that I get that question quite a bit. I got it, Wednesday. Like, so were you going to do the woo? I'm like, no, because it wasn't mine. But it's something that we kept with the program, and that was
Husky Nations.
Despite the fact I never heard it in Chuck's version, it was important to me to keep it. So that's one thing that I wanted to make sure that it's like, yeah, if I don't do something like this, I'm not, it's how to make enemies and have people hate you right off the bat.
Chuck should do a cameo. Should sign up for a cameo.
He did the one.
I want that on my ringtone. Like, if I get a text, I get Chuck Clausen's woo. Like,
I think I saw a video on him on Twitter do it. Like when he was partially active on his DeClawman Twitter account. So yeah. And what's also cool is not only does Debbie, his daughter, work, but his grandson Shane, so Debbie's son, also works the scoreboard certain games. So
oh wow,
I've played golf with them at the Husky Sportacular the last 2 years. So I've got the wrestling and the hockey when I split, but then the Sportacular I play in every year, and I end up playing with them. So that game down there, you had Chuck, Debbie, and Shane down there during the Mankato game for homecoming. So that was cool for them. And it's it's a real family affair down there. So that's one of the things. Again, keeping the woo was important to me, even though, again, I never heard it, and it's in the Herb. So that was one thing that was incredibly important. And again, thanks to the Dog Pound and those who were behind that account, who you are. And it was like, just it worked. So yeah. I'm glad it did, and it's taken hold. But if you're new to it, new to the Herb, you haven't been there but once or twice in the last couple of years, and you're like, wait, what? Where's the woo? It's you to do the woo now. So that is my piece to it. Yep. That is my piece to it.
That's great.
I think you can go back to our podcast just after one of your series, and I think, Andrew, you asked me about it, and I said, Yeah, I see what Jason is doing. I really like what he's doing once it catches on, and now that it's starting to catch on, it was one, like you said, it took a couple of series before, like, okay, this is how it's still going to kind of live on. And I think it was a great idea, and I'm really happy that also, like you said, the university was on board with it too. Because also, that can kind of tie into a glorified internet troll. I love Go Huskies Woo, but he's an internet troll. So, but
it depends on who you ask.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm a fan, but it's so that's like I love that you were able to do that and incorporate that, and I'm happy that it's catching on.
It'll always take it's usually like the second or third game of the year that people get remembered. Oh yeah, it's kind of hard to do that with a split series to kick off the year. So, but that was the one thing that I had in the back of my head that was like the question I got asked the most.
Sure,
was that
a good interviewer probably would have asked that question. So that's
or perhaps if I'd have brought it up in the pre-show, a guy that's done over 3,000 podcasts should know how to do this.
Yeah, but like hours wise, we're probably pretty close with how long. Speaking of podcast, what do you want to plug?
Well, if you're into wrestling, MadTalkOnline.com, that is my main business. That is where I am a professional PA announcer, broadcaster, writer. Basically, I'm a multifaceted media empire of one in the sport of wrestling. So where all my stuff's at MadTalkOnline.com. That's my shows. I'm on Twitter at Jason M, or excuse me, the artist formerly known as Twitter on X at Jason M Bryant. Same on Instagram. I will sometimes do some game day pre stuff on my Instagram. So again, that's where you'll get that. Sometimes I'll do a little pregame walk around, like here's what I'm doing, here's how I prepare. I try to keep some of that stuff. I don't speak for the program, so I got to make sure that I don't, I did something last year when I actually put skates on, and I was kind of mocking the Cameron Rowe glove in the goal thing. And I was actually on the practice rink, and I got one of the GAs to like video me. I was skating. I was on skates, and I was like, and I said, "Hey, if the puck goes into the net, but it's in the glove, it's still a goal." And I was like, you know what? Larson's probably still pissed about that last night. Let's not post that. But yeah, it was kind of funny because the staff got a kick out of me actually on skates at that point, which would have been the fourth time in my life, because twice after hockey games at church growing up that we went to, did the youth group, did the minor league hockey game, and then skate afterwards. And then once when I got the skates up on the lake, that wasn't completely, that was actually frozen enough to skate on up near Garrison with my in-laws. And then once last year. So I actually have a nice pair of Vapors next to me.
Jeez.
That I was good. I kind of keep them in the car during hockey season in case I ever want to get on the practice rink before a game. But
we'll get you signed up for an old timers league. Get you on Hockey Finder.
That sounds incredibly creepy. I just need to know how to stand up, man. Like seriously, I moved to Minnesota. I live in Minnesota. I am a Minnesotan now. I should be able to skate. So that's kind of one of the things. And there was only 8 days the rinks were open outdoors last year.
Yeah, I was going to say last year probably wasn't the best year for it. But
well, I got access to the rink when I need it, but I'm not exactly going to go out there, drive an hour to like skate for 15 minutes and then turn around and drive back. So anyway, I don't want to mess up Corey's ice either by falling on it.
I'm Weldie at More Clappers, MOAR, More Clappers. Andrew, where can you reach you?
You can find me at Andrew at greenground.net, as well as you can email the show Huskies Hockey Podcast at gmail.com. Send me an email.
Where are you at in your movie?
I've been slacking. I've been slacking. Maybe I'll see something. I'm still in the early 70s, but haven't seen more than a few recently. But gotcha. I'll let you know the next podcast. I'll let you know.
Perfect. Sounds good. Take a look at my Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And we'll let you know when we start getting some shows going. And obviously when we You know what? I'm just going to end it there. Thank you guys for listening for the nearly 3 hours. We appreciate you. Thank you, Jason, for being a wonderful sport and coming on. This was absolutely amazing to have you on, so thank you. Until next time, go Huskies. Woo!